Seems to be working. I don't know what was going on with OBS the first time, but it's on now. We'll be live on TikTok
Okay.
any moment.
Whatever you say.
All right. Now
We're
we're
live on
live.
YouTube.
Oops, I got the wrong background. There we go. We're live on YouTube and TikTok now.
Oh, great. All right, let me hop into the TikTok live chat.
All right, we got you on the TikTok live. I got a request though before I forget.
Nice. Oh, hey, look. Speak of the
Look at
nondescript Satan
that.
himself.
Whoa, how's it going, gang?
Howdy.
Yeah, are we live?
We
About to
are,
be. Well, I mean, yes,
Okay.
you're about to be live.
and the unholy trinity is complete.
Quite.
Blitz, is everything okay?
Yes. I'll tell you guys about it later.
Sure.
But yeah, everything's fine. I'm going to the wedding. My brother's going to the wedding. We're all good.
Okay.
Oh. Ian, your mic's a little bit quiet.
It is.
We lost.
And he's gone.
Okay. Well, friends, welcome to the stream this morning. If you would like to tell us about your God, we would love to hear about it. If you're on TikTok, you can hit the guest request button. If you're on YouTube, then just go to tiny.cc/UA guest. There's a clickable version of that link in the description of the video if you don't want to type it in. We'd love to hear about whatever God you worship. Welcome back.
Yeah, is this better? Does this work?
Way
Oh,
better.
it's so much better.
Whoa, excellent, excellent.
Fantastic. I don't know what happened the first
Whoa.
time.
It's almost too good.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Mods, lower this guy's mic quality.
All right, I see Ian requesting up, and we might have our first guest already.
Excellent.
Okay, I think we'll get our first guest in here. D-Bar, thank you for the $5 super thanks. We super appreciate it, friend. And with that, let's get battological. Welcome in,
Howdy.
Bat. Are you at least 18, and do you believe in God?
I am at least 18. You know, Ian over here likes to delete videos after he gets absolutely cooked.
Is that
Oh.
true? Ian,
The-
are you guilty?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Remember me?
So the
Oh wait, is
Right-
this the are you I think this guy's 14. This guy literally said that he was 14 in my comment section.
yeah, that's what I was
No.
thinking. So we
Yeah.
didn't get past the opening yet, Bat. So again, what we're trying to figure out is, are you over 18 and do you believe in God? It sounds like he's upset at you, so he does believe in God.
If this is
Is
the
it
guy
a-
that I'm thinking of, this is like a 14-year-old.
Yeah, I think it is. So is it a yes to both questions?
What was that?
Is it a yes to both questions? You do believe in God and you are in fact over 18.
I actually already proved to these guys that God exists. And then they got mad, they got rage baited, and they kicked me out. It was
Yeah,
a
is
very,
that- is that
sad
so?
time for these guys? They deleted the clip, you know. Ian
Who's
over here
they?
claimed I was
Yeah.
14, and
I
was an
actually
excuse
sometimes I think
to
it's like
delete the video.
it's like
because he got
top
caught.
tier
Yeah.
rage bait, right? You know, when people claim
Tell-
like
tell
I'm
everyone-
recording you,
tell
I'm
everyone you
recording
deleted
you.
the
It turns
video.
out they're actually never recording you.
Wait, can you tell everyone
So
you
one thing
deleted
that I
the
like
video?
to
'Cause when
do,
I tell
because I
people
think it's
that
like
I'm-
actually genuinely funny, is delete the recording
Hey,
so
Ian,
that
Ian,
people
I'll
like
grant
you
you this,
crash
I'll
the
grant you
fuck
this.
out. You know, you've literally been obsessed
Ian, I'll
with me
grant
ever
you
since
this. I'll
then.
grant you this. I'm one of three ages. I'm either 25, I'm either 32, or I'm either 14. All right? I'll
You're
give you the
definitely
benefit of
14.
the doubt. There's a 66% chance that I am actually over the age of 18 because I granted you that I'm
Justin,
either 25,
you should
32,
probably
or
kick him
14.
because he is 14.
Yeah,
I'm not
he's definitely 14.
14.
Yeah, he literally claimed to be 14.
Yeah, he's 14.
Apparently, Ian's mic is too loud on TikTok.
Mm.
Oh, on TikTok specifically?
That's what people are saying.
Well, we can turn it down. Okay, let's see if that's any better. Or I think the guest also was just really quiet, which was the other problem. Sometimes
I mean,
it cuts
Ian's
both
mic is
ways.
kind of loud. Not
Is it
that I
hot right
mind.
now? Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Well, we'll get our next guest. Looks like next in line is Creation, Flood, End Times.
Oh, okay. Creation, flood, end times. How's it going?
Welcome in,
Doing good. Hold
Creation.
on, let me get to a spot here where I can get a little quieter. All right, yeah, I apologize. Yeah, I believe in God, and I'm over 18.
Awesome. And which God do you believe in?
I believe in a Christian God.
Okay.
So just from a quick perusal of your name, it sounds like you think that there was a flood?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe a great flood even?
Yeah, it covered the whole world.
Why do you think that happened?
Well, it says in the Bible that it happened because God was upset with His creation.
Sorry,
with violence.
my question was vague. Why do you think that it happened at all? Not like what was the reason for it happening, but what justification do you have for thinking that it occurred?
Oh, because of all of the overwhelming evidence for it, brother.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Anywhere you look on the planet, like I don't know where you guys are at right now, but I can imagine that wherever you're at, you could step out onto the grass and take a core sample, and you're going to have what we call stratification.
Stratification can come about not via a flood. In fact, when you have
Right,
floods,
the
you
fact
produce
that it's-
floodplains, and floodplains famously don't have any stratification.
Yeah, but when you can see that when it doesn't happen in water, it's usually lumpy, like wind driven. You'll see it'll create a low pressure behind like a sand dune. So that stratification is usually not straight across like you see almost exclusively across the entire planet.
I mean, you understand that when there's a flood, there is no stratification produced.
Wait, what?
So
Do I
when there's a
understand that
flood, when there's a flood, stratification is ruined and it becomes uniformized. Or is that a word? Uniformized?
It becomes
And this makes sense,
uniform.
right? You have a flood coming in, it mixes up all the sediment, and then it all just settles in one homogeneous group. And so you don't actually have stratification. You have just a thick layer of all of the same sediment.
I'm sorry. It's called hydrologic sorting. That's not true at all. You can buy a toy at Walmart that has different colors, sands, and shapes.
That only happens if it's allowed to settle gently, not during a flood. Floods aren't gentle.
No, that's not true. We saw this at Mount St. Helens in Spirit Lake. It has stratification at the bottom of it. That was
Because
not
it's
a
settled.
gentle- Yes, it was very violent.
Right,
It
right.
settled
But,
out, right.
right. But keep in mind, floods are not gentle, right? Things are not allowed to gently settle out
All right,
in a
brother,
flood. You have mixing of all of the layers of stratification because you have the floodwaters rushing over the dirt, scraping away layers and layers.
I got you, but I gave you a very specific example, and now you're just going to continue to say no. So, I mean, I don't know where we can go from there. So we'll just.
It's a
agree to
lake.
disagree.
Lakes settle.
Yes, and ocean water would settle too, brother.
Oh,
If
so
it
you're
was-
telling
how
me
long was the flood?
So okay, so
Yeah,
just
you
to be
think it
clear,
was-
you're telling me that the Earth was just covered in basically stationary water for how long?
The flood continued to rise for 150 days, and then I believe
So it continued to
started coming
rise. So
down.
it wasn't able to settle.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what idea that you have that. I mean, I'm sure it was an extremely violent event, but I mean, at the same time, Noah and his family was in the ark for over a year. So are you telling me that it couldn't have settled for them being in the ark for over a year? They didn't have time for it to settle?
I mean, I don't know the time scale at which you can get geological settling, but I imagine for such a violent event, you would have such severe mixing, especially considering that there would still be ocean currents, there would still be tides, that I don't think it would settle particularly quickly. And like floodplains are good examples of this, right? Places that flood
like
for
I said,
long
okay,
times
but
continuously. That seems
now
like
we're
it's a good
just going
example.
and like I said, no disrespect, but now I've given you a very specific example, and you're just going to say nuh-uh. So okay.
I don't think that's what's happening. I think we're talking about like floodplains, right? Like you understand
so
that floodplains are a thing?
Yeah, and you understand that hydrologic sorting is a thing, and we see this all over the
Absolutely.
planet. And when it's not
When you have
done in
stationary water,
water,
absolutely.
right? So
Was the water stationary?
So all of these stratification just happen to be all over the planet, right?
So to be clear, is your claim that because there's geological strata, that means that there was a flood? Because you know that geological strata can form absent a flood. In fact, they often form on their own over long periods of time.
Outside of the water? Outside of water?
You know that things can be underwater without there being a flood, right?
Right.
So why do you
again,
need a
we're just
flood to
going
form
nuh-uh.
stratification?
We see stratification all over the earth. That's just one of the evidence you asked for.
But hold on. Do you
demonstrated it,
think that
provided it. Now we're
do
just
you think
going
that the
yes.
presence of stratification requires a flood?
Do I think that it requires a flood? I mean, probably not. But if it's going to
Okay,
be
so then how is
uniformly
that evidence for a global flood?
because if it's going to be uniformly all over the planet, that would
It's
require
not
for it to be
uniform. But the
uniformly covering water.
thickness of geological strata are not uniform across the planet.
No, that is correct.
So then
But we do.
why would we think that it was
see
caused by a single event?
Because we see stratification everywhere.
Yeah, but you would expect to see stratification everywhere if everywhere is on Earth, because stratification is a process that occurs whenever anything is either underwater or exposed to severe weathering.
All right, so there again,
Right?
we're back to.
But what that means is that even if it's the case that this kind of stratification can happen from the flood, which I don't think is true, by the way. I think you would expect to see floodplains for such a severe event. But even if it's the case that it was allowed to settle because for some reason the violent parts were not violent, even if that were the case, you wouldn't expect to see varying levels of thickness in various places, right? Because it would just be equally mixed.
Right. No, you would see hydrologic sorting, which is exactly what we see.
And you would see
expect,
equal amounts everywhere, would you not?
well, I would see what?
You would see uniform sorting. If you
Yeah,
mixed
so you
up
don't
everything and then just let it all settle, it would be uniform, would it not?
No, not necessarily, because it depends on the hills and high places and low places. But you would expect to see hydrologic sorting and pretty much straight lines with no erosion marks in them. If there was a worldwide flood, we actually do see this, and the currents would help it, not hurt it.
The currents would keep it mixed. It would keep it uniform.
No, not if they fell out. That's
So
not
now
true.
you're the one saying nuh-uh.
No, I mean I can actually give you an example. When you put gold or lead or any of these heavy materials inside of it, inside of a pan, then you allow river water in it, and then you shake the crap out of it. Where does the
I'm a
gold
little
come?
confused. So wait a minute. You actually
I
think
can
that there's
tell.
density sorting here, right?
It's called hydrologic sorting. So it will shape by density. It'll shape by
So
weight. It'll
why
shape
is it
by
that we find gold on the surface then?
Oh, that's because at the end of the flood, it said the mountains arose and the valley sank down. See, a lot of the problem is people assume, like, hey, there's not enough water to go over Mount Everest. Well, Mount Everest wasn't there, and we can see this.
Oh.
That's why almost every
That's
mountain
kind of a big claim.
No, I mean, I'm just you asked me what my belief system is, and now I'm giving you evidence for that. Like every single mountain range follows the coastline. This is what would happen at the
Every
end of the flood.
single Okay, I'm sorry. What about the Rockies? What about the Himalayas?
Yeah, they follow.
Neither of those are on
That's what-
coastlines.
I said they follow the coastline, champ.
I don't know what it means to follow the coastline if there's not a coastline next to it.
What? Really? You don't know how
So
that would
typically
work?
when we
You
say
don't know how to follow a
something
coastline
follows a
instead of-
coastline, we mean that the coastline is next to the thing that they're
No.
following.
Take
Or the
for
thing's
example,
following.
Wait, can we just get clear? Which coastline do the Rockies follow?
Let me show you. Let me give you.
We're not gonna. I'm getting
specific-
revelation from Allah, and he's telling me that we're not gonna get an answer to that question.
All right, brother. I mean, like I said, you just want to throw some ad hominems. I'm not the one.
Well,
who believe it comes from Allah.
just answer the
To be clear,
question.
that's not an ad hom.
You know, please just answer the question. Which coastline do the Rockies follow?
Hold on one second. I'll pull it up. I'll give you a real specific example while I'm pulling it up. Like North Carolina, right? I live in the mountains of North Carolina. If you look at the mountain shapes and how it goes up to Tennessee, and then how it starts a little bit farther west in like North Carolina and Tennessee, and then as it goes up into Virginia, it goes a little bit farther east. That absolutely follows the coastline.
And the Rockies. Which coastline do the Rockies follow?
Hold on, brother. Give me a second here, man.
Yeah, please take your
apologize.
time.
I wasn't ready for every single one of your
No.
questions.
Also, none of the mountains in Asia follow a coastline. Not in China.
I was gonna say the
not
Hindu
in
Kush don't.
Mongolia. I mean,
Okay, when I'm making a broad statement, I don't mean every single mountain.
maybe it
that
was
ever
too
existed
broad.
or that exists.
Maybe you should say some mountains follow coastlines.
I would say majority of the mountains follow the coastline.
What about the
vast
Hindu
majority.
Kush? What about the Tantras? I think they're called the Tantras in Central Europe. Tatras, I'm sorry, not Tantras. What about those?
I don't know those at all.
They're a set of mountains in like Slovakia and Poland. What coastline are they following? Because they're like mega landlocked.
Yeah, so the Rocky Mountains would probably follow the west coastline.
They're kind of like
So
hundreds of miles away, though, aren't they?
yes, but
What about like the
what's the
Himalayas,
argument that? Hold
which
on,
are
wait a
like
minute, wait a minute.
1,000 kilometers from the ocean? How are they
And I've
following a
already made
coastline?
the point. Okay, I'm literally trying to tell you because which
Yeah,
argument
please.
are you going to go with? They don't follow the coastline, or they're really far away.
I just don't know what it means to
It's the
follow a
same
coastline if
argument.
they're not near a coastline.
Sure, I would like to give you the creationist theory. So in the Bible, now you can say I don't believe it, but what you can't say is that what it doesn't line up. You're welcome to say I don't believe it and make fun of it, but you can't say that it doesn't line up. So the rain for 40 days and for 40 nights in the flood, but the water continued to rise for over 150 days because the fountains of the deep broke open. In Genesis, it says that the dry land was founded upon the waters. So we believe that there was a layer of water clearly underneath the crust of the earth. This still happens. I live off of well water now from water that's clearly underneath the crust of the earth. So we believe that when the fountains of the deep broke
I mean,
open,
in the crust of the earth.
yes, now, but actually it says on
The crust
of the
is
earth.
like
Like I said,
3,000 miles thick.
No, it's
So
like
you're free
12
to-
miles thick, Justin. You're thinking
Depends on where
of the
you're-
mantle, but yeah, your well water is probably like the water table, right? It's in the crust. It's like 100 feet, 200 feet, 1,000 feet, maybe.
I get it. I'm just making a point to say that there's water there. And then, like I said, you don't have to believe it, but here's, if I can finish it, it says that the land was founded on the waters, right? So we believe that the land was on the water to begin with. And when the fountains of the deep broke open, the water come out from underneath the crust of the earth and then continued to rise for 150 days, I believe it was. So you would expect that since the water is no longer underneath the crust of the earth, that the crust of the earth is not in many places are not supported, and it's going to crack, right? And as the water is, since it's heavier and as it's going to low places, right, it's going to cause that crust to break. Now imagine that the water is going to these low places. When the crust breaks, it's going to break in the same. It's going to follow that same level that the water is going down in because it's heavier, and that's why the mountain ranges would follow the coastline, even though they're thousands of miles away, because it's breaking because the water is going to the low spots, causing the crust to get heavier. Now you can say I don't believe it, and that's fine, but you still can't say that it's not.
So,
that it doesn't.
Are you familiar with the Ural Mountains in Russia?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so the Ural Mountains are basically a mountain range that split Russia between east and west. And I don't know if I can show you something. Justin, can I send you a link to pull up?
Yeah.
I think it's pronounced URL, by the way.
Ah, yes, got him. So I just sent it in the group chat. This is a map of major mountain ranges of the world. Justin will pull it up in just a moment. There's two mountain ranges, arguably three mountain ranges in in Asia, that none of which follow any coastlines. Now, it is true that like the Andes Mountains follow a coastline, roughly. The Appalachians follow a coastline. The Great Dividing Range follow a coastline. Like there are like several mountain ranges that do follow coastlines, and like the standard geological account for that makes sense, namely that you have two tectonic plates butting up against each other, one being a a continental tectonic plate, one being an oceanic tectonic plate. And as the continental tectonic plate rolls over the oceanic tectonic plate, you get mountains. But that's not how all mountains form, because you can have two continental tectonic plates butt up against each other as well and also form a mountain range. And that better explains why we get mountain ranges everywhere, not just along coasts, if it was the case that mountains were formed by any pair of continental plates butting up against each other. So Justin, if you move it over to Asia, you'll see the URL mountains kind of going north-south, while the coast that it is closest to goes east-west, so it explicitly doesn't follow any sort of coast. You have the Altai Mountains, which are smack dab in the middle of Asia, not following any coast, and you have the Himalayas, again, not following any coast. So it seems like your theory actually fails to make correct predictions.
So no, the Himalayas, it's not an exact one for one, but that clearly is showing that the water ran off. And yes, I would agree on some of those. I'm not saying it's 100%, but look at all of the mountain ranges that absolutely do follow the coast, bud. And you picked
Like I
up
said,
the
there are two ways that mountain ranges can form. Mountain ranges can form from continental plates bumping up against oceanic plates, in which case you will get mountain ranges on the edges of continents. And you can also get mountain ranges formed by continental plates bumping up against other continental plates, like what happened in Asia, because Asia has several plates. And that's why you're seeing mountains popping up in Central Asia that have absolutely nothing to do with the ocean.
Okay, and I can absolutely say that, you know, if I grab a Pringle chip and break it, it's not going to break uniformly. So the same thing that my prediction in my model would not discount this at all. I mean, this is
Your
rocks
prediction
that
was
might
that they
never-
all follow a coastline, and they explicitly don't.
And then I explicitly stated that maybe not every single one of them. When I
So
say
you
it,
changed
I'm clearly
you
talking
changed
about-
your prediction because your prediction failed. That's a sign of a
Go
failing
back and
theory.
watch go back and watch the clip, brother, because I clearly said I'm not talking about 100% of them. I wouldn't say 100% of everything anytime. So I clarified that. I don't know if you just didn't hear it, but if you want to go back later and watch the clip back, you'll see that I did not say
So what's
100%.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, I know Dr. Blitz is a bad faith interlocutor, but I understand your theory pretty straightforwardly. You're saying that they all follow the coastline except for the ones that don't.
You might not have heard it either, brother. So I said like what 90% was my number that I gave.
Yeah, so they follow the coastline except for the ones that don't.
Right.
You know, they either do the thing or they don't do the thing. You know, fits all the data.
It still yes, it still does. I mean, if I went with your theory, then it shouldn't follow all the coastlines at all, hardly, except for the ones.
I just gave you the account for why we have some mountain ranges follow coastlines and some mountain ranges don't.
Yeah, can you summarize back to us what Blitz told you for why some of them follow the coastline and some of them don't?
And I said the exact same thing.
This guy wasn't listening.
Yes, I was listening.
Wait, then can you just summarize back what Blitz's explanation was?
Does every single mountain range follow the tectonic plates?
Yeah, he wasn't listening, which is why he can't summarize it back.
Are you asking whether or not tectonic
Yes,
plates
you said
form the
that
boundaries of
tectonic-
mountain ranges?
Right, the tectonic plates is what causes the mountain ranges. Am I not correct that you believe that they smash in together? Some of them go under and some of them rise above, right? I mean, that's what you believe.
That's
the
my
mountain
understanding.
ranges-
I'm not a geologist, but that's my understanding of how mountain
Okay,
ranges
so
form.
I guess
Yeah.
I did surmise it right. Thank you.
No, but that wasn't well. Okay, so that wasn't why I said that some of them follow continental boundaries and some of them don't follow
Yeah, that
continental
wasn't for you.
boundaries.
That was for the gentleman down that said I didn't know how to summarize it right, and then evidently I just summarized it right.
Well,
Thank
but
you.
what was the summary for the Ural Mountains? Blitz said that some of them follow like tectonic and oceanic plates pushing against each other.
Hey, look, you guys asked for evidence. I've given you the evidence.
Yeah,
and
sure.
now
I'd
just
pivot
see
away
what
from that one too.
over our different ones. So let me ask you then. How does polystrata fossils form if these sediment layers are?
You'll have to
medium
ask a paleontologist about that or a geologist.
Oh, come on, I'm not a
'cause
geologist.
it turns
I'm sitting
out
here answering questions
it turns
about
out
rocks.
like
Come on, brother.
paleontologists don't think that it's from a global flood. So it would stand to
that's great.
reason that whatever the answer is, they wouldn't agree with you. Like if you asked a professional, they wouldn't say, "Well, the flood, silly."
Okay,
Now,
so
I actually have a perhaps
Hold on,
original
wait,
question
wait,
that you may have
wait,
never
wait,
heard.
Before we move on from that,
how-
you asked me a question.
This has to do
I
with the
give y'all a
clouds.
question, and we talk about rocks. I'm not a geologist, but the moment I bring up polystrata fossils, it's like, well,
I don't
go
know.
see an expert. Can't even
Well-
talk
Well,
about it.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not,
It's not
isn't that
that
an honest thing
hard.
to do? If you don't know, if you're not familiar with the field of study, then wouldn't it make sense to
Well,
push the
wouldn't
question
it
to
make
somebody who
sense
is?
That if you're going to talk against a global flood, that you might want to look at the evidence that absolutely smashes your theory and
Well,
stands with mine.
It certainly doesn't do anything with our theory. You only think it supports your theory when it doesn't. And there's lots of explanations for polystratal
Can
fossils.
those layers be millions
So-
of years apart if they have a fossilized tree connecting them?
Yes, they can, because as it turns out, there's lots of ways trees can get into multiple strata.
Right. Yeah,
And so,
So if I
the
were-
reality is there are explanations
where
for
we
these.
see
Have
that-
you bothered to look it up?
Yes, I absolutely have. And you know
And what was the
why
explanation? What was the explanation for why a tree is crossing multiple strata?
Well, they don't say tree. That's the problem. They don't want to confess that it's a tree because if
What's
it's
the
tree,
explanation for the famous picture of the tree going through multiple strata? What is it?
I'm giving it to you, brother. I promise you, I'm giving it to you. The problem is they say that it's not a tree. That's what I'm saying. Their explanation is that it's a fungi made to look like a tree. That's not me saying that. That's what they say. Because if you say it's a tree, then the overwhelming evidence that we have is that is the flood, and we see this in Spirit Lake at Mount St. Helens. That these trees fall down and then the sediment is covered up over them rapidly. Trees don't last in one spot for 65 million years while they're covered up by sediment. That don't happen.
They do.
So
They
what
do.
they try to say
they-
is that
they
this
do
is a
if
fungi
they're,
that represents that looks like a tree. It's not a tree. That's what they say. This is not my theory. This is theirs.
They do if they're calcified, if they're fossilized.
How do they get in the layers?
So do we see these everywhere, by the way?
You see them all
Do we
over
see
the
them?
planet. I wouldn't. I mean,
Well,
in different
that wasn't
spots
my
on the
question.
planet, I wouldn't say-
That wasn't my question, because look, if it were the case that this was a result of rapid sedimentation events that happened globally, then we would expect to see these basically every single place there were trees, and they should be wildly abundant, right?
Well, yes and no. We do see it on all the major continents, if I'm not mistaken. Again,
My
I don't wanna
question is,
speak in abs-
so why aren't they wildly
I-
abundant?
I-
Because
I
trees
can
are wildly
answer it, but
abundant, right?
I think the problem is you don't understand how floods work. So the prediction of a flood is that these trees wouldn't just stay where they're at; that they would be uprooted, and you would create what the big trash heap in is it the Pacific or the Atlantic? Which one ever has the big statewide? It's as big as a state that trash. Because the currents and stuff put all these things together. So you wouldn't see it randomly. We would expect to see them in different patches because we know that currents put these things together. Like the Hells Creek Formation. This is a flood model that would predict this. It would put all of these things in a pile and then lay them down over several states. It wouldn't just be every single spot on the planet. That's not how a flood works, brother. So I tried to answer your question, and there it is.
So to be clear, you're telling me that it sounds like you're saying that we're only going to see them in very specific places. So what are the grounds necessary to find them in those specific places? Like what quality should a place have so that we should expect to see fossil trees there? Like upright fossil trees.
If it has, like they have it in coal, anytime you would see where the flood would gather together those materials. So anywhere
I'm asking
you
what
find
I'm asking what are those conditions? What conditions would allow for the flood to gather materials in a certain place?
I don't know. I don't know what the conditions were pre-flood. So I mean, it would have to be currents and tides. I would imagine that I can't predict where they're at. I can't predict where they would be at. I can only predict where they're at now because we see them. And when we see them,
apparently they're like wildly rare.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I would imagine. Yeah, I mean, fossils are still rare.
Like they're much rarer than typical fossils.
Okay, I would agree. That doesn't discount anything.
So why are we finding upright trees, which should be super common? Why are we finding them so much less frequently than standard fossils?
I don't know that that's the case. You can go to Yellowstone and see these all over the place.
Right, in a place with forests. So you would expect everywhere that there's forests, you should see these, but we don't.
Yeah, what's funny is a place with the forest and the way that you see these layers on top of layers and some of them connecting shows that this happened in a lot of water, and it wasn't forest on top of forest and then a new forest, because the old tree that connects with the third tree would have to be there for 65 million years for that to happen. So I know that's what you're taught. But
no, so look. So while you were rambling, I just did a quick Google search, and apparently the standard geological explanation is that we see these in places where we have documented rapid sedimentation events. So you're right; these often do happen during rapid sedimentation, and the reason we don't see them everywhere is because rapid sedimentation events didn't occur globally.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, there's a whole wiki page dedicated to it, and it says upright fossils typically occur in layers associated with an actively subsiding coastal plain or rift basin, which is why we find them near coastal plains, not globally.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're
No.
gonna find them everywhere, but I do believe that they're on just about every major continent.
They should
So
be everywhere.
I see that we see some in North America and we see some in Australia, and some in Germany. I'm sure that we could look further, but the point is like these are not things that are abundant, and we would kind of expect them to be. Now, I do have a question that I imagine you've probably never heard before. During the 40 days of the flood, right? It was raining for 40 days, right? Now, for those 40 days, was it cloudy the whole time?
Was it cloudy the whole time?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Well, I would imagine if it was raining, it had to be cloudy, right?
Well, see that goes to the creation theory because the Bible says that there was no rain before that, so the fountains of the deep broke open. But
Wait a minute, there was no rain before that? How did
That's what the Bible
trees
says.
grow?
It talks about it actually doesn't say, but one spot in the Bible, and I wouldn't get a doctrine off of this. So I would say first of all, I don't know because the Bible doesn't teach a big doctrine on this, but it does talk about a mist that come up that watered the plants before the flood, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so to be clear, you think that like there were no clouds beforehand and no rain?
So
That's a crazy claim, by the way.
Well, that's great. I think your claim is crazy too. We didn't come from rocks, so I mean, we both have crazy claims.
I mean, that's a cool straw man, but you just agreed that there was no rain before the flood.
I didn't, brother. You need to you first.
Wait,
you need
hold
to
on.
write
Yes,
down
you did.
what I say. No,
Did
I
I?
did not. I said
Did I just miss
we
your
all
list?
heard
Whoa,
it.
whoa,
He
let's just
said,
calm down,
according
Math
to the
Breather. Just
Bible, there
relax.
was no rain. There was a mist that came up from the earth. We all heard
yes,
it.
and I said I'm giving you an explanation as to what the Bible can say, but I am prefacing it by starting off by stating I don't know, and then I gave you the
Okay,
flood.
great.
Whoa, just relax, dude. You're getting really upset.
So look,
No,
do we
because
think
you
that?
guys are you're saying I'm saying
Whoa,
something.
calm
I'm not.
down.
So look, do you
Well,
think that when it was raining during the
or
flood,
lying about what I'm saying, and I promise you, I'll be as
When
calm as
it-
I can be.
when it was raining during the flood, was it cloudy?
And I answered that by saying I don't know.
Okay, so you agree that it was raining during the flood, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, now where does rain come from?
It's falling water out of the sky.
You
So-
think that
so
rain
let me
can
go-
just fall from the sky without clouds?
All right, before you interrupt me, let me tell you the whole thing here so you'll understand my point clearly. First of all, could God have made it rain like it rains right now? Yes. But the flood model that we believe is that the fountains of the deep broke open, and the water pressure from the fountains of the deep breaking open, we see this, the whole planet's cracked open like an egg. This is the creation model says that, obviously like an asteroid or a comet or something hit the planet, causes it to crack open. From these cracks, that's where the water shot out. It shot out at such pressure that it probably even sprinkled some of the moons. That's why we have more craters on the moon, the side of the moon that faces us, than the dark side of the moon.
The craters on the moon are from the water jets on the Earth.
That could be part of it, and because when it would get outside of Earth's orbit, it would turn to ice, and then that would cause craters on the. That's just one of the theories that we believe that that's why there's more craters on the side that faces.
Just to be clear, in Genesis 7 verse 4, it says, 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. It doesn't say that he's going to send waters from the deep. He also sends waters from the deep, but he sends rain explicitly, right?
How the fuck did Noah know what rain was?
That's a good question.
He certainly would not.
He's like, I'm gonna send rain in 7 days, and Noah's like, what?
If the fountains of the deep broke open and it sprayed a bunch of water in the atmosphere, and that water fell all over the earth, would you say it was raining?
No, I would say that there's geysers.
Okay. All right. Well, so to answer your question, I don't know. Could it have come from clouds? Yes. Yes, it very well could have come from clouds.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, I would contend that it couldn't have come from clouds, because if it did, then the earth would have frozen and killed everything on it, including Noah and his family.
And why would you contend that?
Because clouds reflect 90% of sunlight. And if they reflect 90% of sunlight for 40 days, that's enough for the Earth to freeze.
For 40 days, it's enough for the Earth to freeze.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We could just run the math on it. You would find that the Earth's average temperature would be like 30 degrees below zero.
Okay. Well, the fact that I've already explained that it could have rained without the clouds there, that's great.
Okay, so it seems like you are obligated to now believe, because otherwise the Earth would have been frozen and would have killed everybody.
No. Actually, that is the
that
first time I've heard
there
that
were no
argument. I thought you
clouds
were
during the
gonna go with
rain.
heat. I thought you were going to go with the heat argument. That's what I thought you were
Nope.
going to go with, not the cold argument.
Nope.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So,
I did say that you've probably never heard this before.
To be
Yeah,
clear, how are the rivers being fed? At least one of the rivers in Genesis prior to the rain is a river that we know is fed by rainwater coming off mountains. How were those rivers formed without rain?
Because what happened is after the flood, people named those rivers. The
No,
same
no,
rivers,
before
and
the
we
flood.
assumed- Okay. I don't know. Probably the same. I mean, we have rivers today that are not fed with. I have a creek in my backyard that's not fed from rainwater. It's fed from underground springs.
Okay, you're saying
Oh, wait a minute, hold on.
those rivers were different than before the flood.
Yeah, it could have been.
So just to be clear, I think that it kind of insists that there must have been clouds during the flood because God is specifically talking about setting the rainbow in the clouds, verse 13.
That's after the flood.
So you're telling me that there were no clouds during the flood, and then after the flood, the clouds formed and the rainbows formed.
I'm telling you that the Bible says that it did not rain before the flood. After the flood, then it
Where
rained,
does
yes.
I'm actually
Before the
curious. Where does it say that it didn't rain before the flood?
It doesn't. It never talks about how it rained before. The flood.
Which means it never happened. So
It also never talks about like radioactive decay, but you have to believe that radioactive decay happened before the flood.
No, you have to make up a lot of assumptions of what the parent material is in an effort to get these great ages out of it.
So well, I mean, if you're saying like because it never mentions it, it didn't happen. Who do you think Adam and Eve's children reproduced with?
I have no idea. The Bible doesn't mention it.
Sure. Wait.
They
So we have
formed by
we have a
budding,
couple of
obviously.
options on the table, right? We have Adam, we have Eve, and then we have each other. So you agree if the Bible doesn't mention it, it didn't happen. So it needs to be one of those.
Yeah, the creation model would probably say their brothers and sisters.
Oh fuck! Wait. So God created like an incest world? Is that good? Wait, is that morally perfect?
Is that so? We're basing that.
Is
off
that is that morally perfect? Was the question.
First of all, I don't know.
You don't know if incest is morally perfect? You don't know if brothers and sisters sleeping with each other is morally perfect? You're not sure?
No, I'm talking about pre-flood, and I don't know that was the case. That's my point. I don't.
Well, wait. They would have needed to reproduce with each other because you're saying, well, if the Bible doesn't mention it, it didn't happen.
No, that's not my argument at all.
That is your argument. You said it didn't rain prior to the flood because the Bible didn't mention it. That was your argument.
I'll have to, like I said, I wasn't ready for every single question you guys are ready to sling at me. So I'll have to look up. Give me a second where it talks about it didn't rain before the Bible.
Please.
Okay.
So I'm not an absolute.
Yeah, go get the
I'm
verse.
not an expert in all of it. I'm looking. According to the Bible, particularly in Genesis, is struggling. There was no rain before the flood. Genesis 2:5-6 indicates that God had not sent rain, implying a lack of rainfall inflated motion. Never rained on earth until Noah's flood is supported by various scriptures suggesting that the first rainfalls humanity experienced. Yeah, here it says Genesis 2:5-6, and like I said, I'm not real studied on that verse. But I do believe that is a common belief amongst the creation.
Yeah, so Genesis 5, 6, and 7 is talking about the formation of the Garden of Eden, essentially.
Genesis 2.
Yeah, Genesis 2, 5-7. Yeah, no, I know. It's talking about the creation of the Garden of Eden. So it's saying that no shrub had yet appeared on the earth, and no plant had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not sent rain on the earth, and there was no one to work the ground. But streams came up from the ground and watered the whole surface of the ground. Then the Lord formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostril the breath of life, and the man became a living being. So what it's saying, very specifically, is that because it hadn't rained yet, shrubs and plants hadn't sprung up yet. But after this, shrubs and plants did spring up. In particular, there's a garden, verse 8. Now the Lord had planted a garden in the east of Eden, and there he put the man he had formed, blah, blah, blah. So because it hadn't rained yet, there were no plants. After there were plants, though, this doesn't say anything about it not raining anymore. This is only before plants existed that it didn't rain.
Okay. So that's most of us creationists don't believe that it did, but it's not something that I would be, I wouldn't put it.
Don't believe that it did rain? By the way, I've
don't
never met a
believe that-
creationist who thinks that it didn't rain.
That it didn't rain before the flood.
Yeah, I've never met a creationist who made that claim. And I've spoken with a lot. By the way, you said that there was a verse that says something about mist? And that's how
Well,
the
I
plants
thought it
got
was
watered?
the water that come up. I believe that was what you just mentioned there.
Oh, but it doesn't say anything about mists. That's talking about how the streams got water.
Right. And how they come up and watered the plant. Did you not just read that? Or am I mistaken?
No, it doesn't say that they water the plant. It waters the surface of the ground. It doesn't say anything about watering the plants.
Like I said, this is not this wouldn't be a very dogmatic. I wouldn't
I would hope not.
I wouldn't take this as a very dogmatic teaching.
I mean, like, surely if just because something's not mentioned doesn't mean that something didn't happen, right?
No, and that never was my argument. I just said it didn't
Okay.
mention it. I never said that's like I said, I wouldn't consider this a dogmatic teaching on my part.
Okay. Now,
I would say,
we can
like
keep
I said,
talking.
there's a lot of creationists that believe that, but like I said, I wouldn't say it was dogmatic.
Do you think the Bible is inerrant?
Now that would I think I would have to depend on what do you mean by error. Does it have scribal errors and stuff like that in it? Yeah. I
Does it
believe
just
that
does it say
scribal-
falsehoods?
Does it say falsehoods?
Yeah.
Not,
When it's giving literal descriptions, does it say falsehoods?
not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay, what do you think the value of pi is?
Was it like 3.14 or something like that?
Well, I mean, not if you follow the Bible. The Bible describes a circular shape that has a circumference of 30 and a diameter of 10. You know, pi is circumference divided by diameter, which means that pi would be 3.
Okay, like this. I'm not a mathematician, or
We can just do the
don't know
math.
what you're- Okay, well, I'll have to take your word on it, brother. I don't. That's not my field.
Do you want the verse?
Yeah, sure, you can give it to me.
1 Kings 7:23. I'll give it a quick read. And he made a molten sea 10 cubits from one brim to the other. It was round all about, and his height was 5 cubits, and a line of 30 cubits did encompass round about it. So it's saying from one brim to the other, so the diameter is 10. A line of 30 cubits did compass round about it, so the circumference is 30. Pi, of course, is circumference divided by diameter, which means that according to the Bible, pi is 30. Or pi is 3.
The problem I think that we're going to have in it is the cubit.
Is 1 cubit around equal to 1 cubit across? Are they the same cubit?
I don't know.
Luckily, units just cancel out, right? Pi is unitless. So, you know, the diameter, 10 cubits, the circumference, 30 cubits. You divide the 30 cubits by the 10 cubits, you get 3. That's the cool thing about units.
Well,
problem with
unless
this-
if cubits go in a circle, they're longer than when cubits go in a line.
Brilliant. I think Einstein said something about that.
I believe it was called the special theory of relative cubits.
Mm.
Right. Ten cubits measured outside, 30 cubits measured inside of the rim. All right, so the measurement refers to different places, the basis and the thickness of the rim. 10 cubits measured from the outside to outside, 30 cubits measured from the inside of the rim. Then pi comes out much closer to 3.14.
What?
I'm sorry, does it say that in the verse? That's how they measured it?
No, but
Oh.
again, I'm not getting my. You're not. This is not referencing a math book. That's why.
But
if this is
so okay, so we would
this
agree
is
that it's
pi,
not
so-
inerrant.
No, I would not agree with that. I'm not going to take one verse where they're talking about measuring a bowl, and because it does not give specifics, it doesn't say that it didn't measure from the outside to the inside either. You're cherry picking what what you want, and I am what I want. So I'm not going to do a dogmatic teaching or say that it's inerrant when it's measuring of a bowl and it's using.
Hey, Ian, what's the
cubit.
bowl made out of?
We don't know. What
It's made out of molten. Or wait, sorry, I'm stupid. I don't think it mentions. Maybe I'm blind.
Doesn't it say bronze somewhere? I could have sworn it said bronze, but maybe not.
And is it? Does the lip?
So the
curl
claim is that
in?
it measures from the inside to the outside, right? Like you're measuring the diameter across the
Yeah,
inside.
from
and
one
the
brim
exter-
to the other. Yeah.
Right. Is it?
Well, so-
is it a? See, this is my problem. Okay, you're going to say that it's an error, and that's fine. We don't know what this bowl looked like. We don't know if the rim had a lip on it that curved in, or if the rim curved out, and of what they're measuring. We have no clue. So I think, I mean, if you got something else, but I'm not, and maybe
I've got
those
something for you.
individuals in the comments will take this as an error, but I mean, I'm not. I don't know what they're
Mhm.
measuring. I don't know if they're measuring a lip on the rim from the inside to the outside, and neither do you, because the Bible's not giving
Mhm.
a math lesson
Yeah.
here, brother.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Christ's most brain blended soldier. Justin,
Was,
what do you
uh,
have?
Was Jesus born during the reign of Herod the Great?
Yes, I believe it was.
Yeah, because according to Matthew, they had to go into Egypt and wait for him to die, right?
Right.
Sure, sure. How come Luke says he was born a decade later during the census of Quirinius?
And Luke, where?
Luke, the birth narrative. They have to get them to Bethlehem in order to take the census under Quirinius.
I don't know. Never heard that one, brother. To be honest with you.
Well, there's at least, at a minimum, a decade between the two events. So he couldn't have been born during the census of Quirinius, while also being born during the reign of King Herod, because Herod was dead at the time of the census. A
Yeah,
decade
so
dead.
the problem that we got with this is whenever it talks about genealogies, and again, you're gonna, oh, this is a cop out or not or whatever, but it's actually shown in the Bible. Like, when did King Hezekiah, when did he reign? And it talks about, or was he 22 or 42? And that's a contradiction in the Bible and all that. You have to look at how Jews did their chronology.
We know how
they
genealogies
added-
work.
Right, but with the Jews, it's totally different. They add different genealogies in numbers. That's why the Hezekiah age of 22 and 42 is such a heated debate, because the Jews add, like, say for example, you were born in the kingdom, then your reign also started at the same time your father's reign. So it's not meant to be taken that way. So
That's not how that
being
works.
said,
I mean,
don't-
you're close. The proper explanation is sometimes sons were co-regents before they were actually reigned, and so it depends on which person you're referring to. Some people, when it says they reigned, that's when they actually became king. Some people, that's when they were co-regent prior to becoming king. That's the explanation you want, and that's a fair explanation. I'm not using that. King Herod was dead. He was dead as a doornail. He had been made worm food already. He was cremated. It didn't exist. 10 years later, it says that Jesus was born. This is not a genealogy of who was co-regent at what time.
I'd be honest with you, bro. It's the first time I heard that, and I don't have an argument for it. It's literally the first time I've heard it.
Yeah, it's a pretty big issue if Jesus' birth is off by what I would say is absolutely more than a decade. But there's like Matthew, to me, Matthew is the biggest goof of all the New Testament writers. The guy has no idea what he's doing. So, for example, who is the father of Jeconiah in the Bible?
I don't know that either. I don't study real hard the lineage, because you got one spot you got begot, and the other one you got son of, and again that it also goes into how the Jews did their lineages.
Sure. And so in Matthew, it says that Josiah begat Jeconiah. Is that a true statement?
Okay, I don't have no reason. I don't have it right in front of me, but I have no reason to think that you're lying about it.
It's on the screen, although you can't see the screen because you're not. Oh, you're calling on TikTok. Yeah, you can see the screen. It says Josiah, the father of Jeconiah. It actually did, my English translation says father, but it actually says that he begat. So Josiah, you would have to conclude, was the father of Jeconiah according to the passage, but it's clearly true that he wasn't. In fact, it's a grandfather. It says Johanan, the firstborn, the second Jehoiakim, the third Zedekiah, the fourth Shallum, the descendants of Jehoiakim, Jeconiah, his son.
All right, so this that's what I meant when it's hard to do lineages, because one of it says son of, and you have Jewish law. So, for example, if my brother died and he didn't have any lineage, then I am to marry his wife. I am to make a baby with her, and then that son becomes his son.
Yeah, levirate marriage. We're aware of that, but there's no levirate marriage happening here.
But brother, what I'm saying is if you read that later in life, then you looked at it, and it was in one spot it said that my brother.
Do you think Zedekiah is the brother of Josiah?
I'm almost
who became a levirate husband to Jeconiah's mother?
I think you're cutting me off purposely, because I'm trying to explain it.
No, I'm actually explaining to you why levirate marriage doesn't work here.
Explaining to you that one, I like we said earlier, I told you, hey, when y'all talked about polystratofossils and you say you don't know, I'm openly admitting here, this is not my field. I don't know. So we can continue to pound on it, but ultimately I'm going to give you an answer. I don't know. Now, what I do know is that the reason why I don't study this, and I like the creation, flood, and end times thing. That's more what I study. The reason why I don't study this is admittedly it's very hard to try to understand, because the way the Jews did their lineage. Now, just like I said, and then I'll move on. If you read what the thing that I just gave you, then later you would read it as my brother being the father of, but then you would also read it later, maybe in another verse where it says, I begot that son. Because yes, technically my brother was
Show me one example of that.
Another one was begot.
Show me one example where a levirate marriage gets included into a lineage where it says the son is actually of the levirate marriage or of the improper father.
I think it's in the book of Ruth. Like I said, if
there's
this is all
there's not a no. That's not in Ruth.
It doesn't talk about the laws and stuff in Ruth about how you're supposed to do this.
That's Deuteronomy 25. Deuteronomy 25 give you the laws for levirate marriage. I'm asking you, show me a lineage where it includes so and so as the son of so and so who wasn't actually the son of so and so.
I don't know. I think it does it with
There's not one.
Like I said, this is not my study, but is it with Joseph or Mary in one of those lineages when it talks about the son of David, if I'm not mistaken? And like I said, I could be wrong.
There's an adoption. It's not so like Joseph adopted Jesus, but that's not levirate marriage.
Right. So that's my point is that I don't study this, and it gets really confusing with the way the Jews did their thing. That's my point.
I don't think you know how the Jews did their thing, and I don't think it's all that confusing. The reality is Matthew adjusts the lineage to serve his purpose. So, for example, he really wants 14 generations, 3 sets of 14 generations to be between major events. It says all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, and from David to the deportation of Babylon, 14 generations. and from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. But like all you have to do is read the lineages and see where he goofed. There's actually either 17 or 18 generations between David and the deportation to Babylon. He left out 3 ancestors between Joram and Uzziah, and then he left out the father of Jeconiah, which means, in fact, there are 18 generations, not 14. But he just left 4 of them out so he can get to 14.
Okay, I have heard this talked about some, but it's not my field, gentlemen. I'll be honest with you.
And
You'll have
then
to talk
the
to
last
someone who's
set,
more educated than that for me.
the last set he counts wrong. There's 14 generations from the deportation to Babylon to the Messiah. That's not true. You can count them. There's 13 of them.
Okay.
So Matthew, he's a giant goof here. And the other problem is Jesus couldn't be reconciled as a legitimate king through Jeconiah because Jeconiah was cursed in Jeremiah 22, right? So it says in Jeremiah 22, 30 and 31 that none of the children of Jeconiah will ever sit on the throne of Judah and be king. In fact, I'll pull it up for you. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, record this man as childless, a man who shall not succeed in his days, for none of his offspring shall succeed in sitting on the throne of David and ruling again in Judah." Which means Jesus is just straight up disqualified if it goes through Jeconiah. So like Matthew has no idea what he's doing. He's a goof. That's why in the same chapter, there's another goof, by the way. There's like 6 of them in just chapter 1 of Matthew. In chapter 1 of Matthew, he also quotes the virgin birth as coming from Isaiah 7. Right? It says, "Look, the virgin shall become pregnant and give birth to a son. They shall name him Emmanuel." That's not in Isaiah 7. Isaiah 7:14 only kind of says that in the Greek Septuagint. It doesn't actually say that in the Hebrew. So he's just lying to you. The Hebrew text says that the young woman's already pregnant. So she's pregnant during the reign of King Ahaz, 700 years before Jesus. What are you supposed to do with that?
Like I said, I don't know, gentlemen. This is not my field, so I mean, y'all can just keep pounding on this one. I've already told you this.
Look, here's another thing that might be more in your field, and I'd just love to hear an answer. How did the kangaroos get to Australia?
I'm also wondering.
They hopped across the ocean?
Yeah, the ocean wasn't there. Same way.
I'm sorry, the ocean wasn't there after a flood?
Yeah, you see, the world was all flooded, but you know, there was no ocean there, Blitz.
Yeah, let me say something.
Wait,
He
when
didn't
did
say.
the
He
ocean get
clearly
there?
created a straw man to make him sound stupid.
Well, no, it's like a legitimate question. Like, how did the kangaroos get there?
You're being condescending. You're being rude, and then you're straw manning my argument that I did not make. So the creation model believes there was absolutely a flood, but we also know that at the end of the flood that there was an ice age, right? We can see that the ice comes down almost all into the northern parts of America, right? And the only places that probably wouldn't have had ice on it would have been around the equator, obviously. Right?
So
I mean,
just to
we
be
can
clear,
see
you know that
the ice.
even at the maximum extent of the Ice Age, there was still no land route connecting the Middle East to Australia.
Oh, absolutely. If you lower the water,
I have a map
table
for you.
behind
Do you want me to
those
show
water
you?
bend,
Let me show you. Let me send Justin a map
land
again.
bridges would have absolutely appeared all over the planet.
Map.
How'd the Indians get to America?
There was an ice bridge there, although that's actually contested
there
now.
was a
But there,
land- oh, there
but
was a
look,
land
look,
bridge.
we know
Oh,
where
maybe they
we
flew
know
under
where
the
the
plane,
land
got
bridges
there.
were. Your incredulity
You know-
is not funny.
You know,
We know
Russia
where
is
the land
actually
bridges
quite
were.
close to Alaska, right? Like, how many miles do you think separates Russia and Alaska?
Not a lot at all.
Yeah.
The point. So if you look at this map, there is a gap between Sunderland and Sahul. This is what the extent of the land bridges were at the highest level when the Ice Age was at its maximum, and there are still gaps between Sunderland and Sahul. How are they getting across those gaps? Were they swimming?
No, I mean, those gaps could have been washed out afterwards, brother. You don't know that.
What do you mean washed out? Look, so you're just saying that they were connected even though there's no evidence that they were ever connected?
Yeah, that's not you. You asked me how I believe I got there, and that's
Okay.
what I told
And
you.
why don't we find
If those
kangaroo
land,
bones
if
or
those
skeletons
if
or
those land
fossils
bridges would have been washed out,
anywhere?
there would be no evidence.
Then why don't we find kangaroo fossils or bones anywhere outside of Southeast Asia and Australia?
I have no idea. Maybe they didn't die anywhere else.
So you're telling me that kangaroos hopped from Turkey to Australia and none of them died?
No, I'm telling you that fossils form in one specific manner, and that is to be rapidly covered in water. Most of the fossils that we see now, if you've seen a kangaroo die from the way
We don't even need fossils. We just need bones. Bones last for thousands of years.
Get it out. I know you don't want me to get it out because I'm getting ready to slap what you just said. If a
Sure.
kangaroo died on the way from Turkey to Australia, would we expect to see any fossils? No,
We would
wouldn't
expect to see
any
bones.
fossils.
If it was only 4,000 years ago, we would expect to see bones. You don't even
What?
need fossils.
If
You
I
would just see
kill
bones.
If
Yeah.
I kill a deer and I put it here in my backyard, it's gone within a month. Its bones don't even last after a couple of years.
You know that we have bones of like ancient humans that like are even, like date back to when you would think the flood would have been. These are just regular bones. These are not fossils. Like from
Right,
ancient
but you just
Mesopotamia,
said
like over
because we didn't see any of these
3,500 years ago.
Yeah, are they rare too?
I mean,
So
it
is
depends.
possible
It
that
depends on
we
the
still
it depends on the
find
environment,
kangaroo
right?
bones in between those spots? But just because we
It
don't
depends on the
now,
environment.
because we would already expect it to be rare, therefore it didn't happen.
The second question: how did the trees get to Madagascar and Hawaii?
How did the trees?
Yeah.
Did the trees swim? Did they hop?
I don't know about. I don't know about the trees. What do you mean
Hawaii
the
is quite a
trees?
distance away from anything.
Madagascar is also fairly far. So is New Zealand, but for that matter. New Zealand was never connected via land bridge to anything.
New Zealand.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Trees? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
trees. Yeah. They would have like giga died in the flood.
And then the
Well, like-
subsequent ice age, of course.
No,
Any
that's not
animal,
true.
I would imagine, like nothing should be living on Hawaii if it was all killed.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
that's-
interestingly, Hawaii doesn't have like basically any native animals other than like bats, but there's like a plausible explanation. They must have flown, but for
And then
like they do
seabirds,
have
right?
they do have native trees, and that seems pretty unexplained.
Right. I mean, you would expect trees to, that couldn't survive another climate. So naturally, I don't have any palm trees at my house. I live in a colder climate.
But the trees would have died in the flood. They would have been under like a pillar of water.
That's not true. You'd have extremely large floating mats. Not every tree would have died. And it only covered the tops of the mountains for so long. Not every tree had to be uprooted, and not every
Do you-
tree had to die. But even if
Do
a
you
lot of
do you
the trees
gander
were-
that
they could be
trees
replanted.
can survive under like how many cubits of water is it?
I forget what it covered over the tallest mountain, but then again, it only had to be covered for not the entire Earth was covered for the entire year.
The internet says
So-
trees can handle a few days to a week of flooding, but extended periods are dangerous because they lack oxygen.
Right.
Which is
And
why
then a lot of the trees would have been uprooted
they would have
and
died.
floated in huge mats.
And then
So,
died,
yeah,
right?
And then died. Yeah.
They'd be
Didn't
dead.
die. No. What?
Well, I mean, like if you uproot a tree and you just like let it float in water for a while, you think it'll live?
No. It only covered the tallest mountain.
Yeah, and where do you think the trees are? Are they on top of or are they lower than the tallest mountain?
Would the water if the water covered a tree for 2 days and then receded, would that tree have died or still be alive?
Wait, so are you telling me that it didn't cover the tallest mountain for more than a few days?
Yeah, it was only a couple of days, probably on the tallest mountain, I would imagine.
Okay, well, fortunately, Hawaii is much shorter than the tallest mountain. So is Madagascar.
Right. I'm not saying every single one of those.
So
trees
how,
is-
if it only covered the tallest mountain for a few days, how long did it
4,000
cover
years,
Hawaii?
You're telling me in at least 4,400 years, you're telling me that no seeds could have got there, no wind blown grass seed could have got
Well,
there. No
look, here's the thing.
uprooted trees could have
Here's the
settled
confusing thing.
there.
Maybe that would make sense for the things that exist in Hawaii and elsewhere, but there are trees on Hawaii that don't exist anywhere else in the world.
Yes, and that's just
So
like climate.
so
You
if
can't
it
take a lot
if it
of
were the
those and make
case,
them exist.
if it were the case that seeds were blown from point A to Hawaii, and those seeds were therefore originating from point A, wherever that might be, 1,000 miles away, we would expect to see those trees there as well.
That gets us into a topic that I love, and that's called microevolution. So yeah,
Wait,
that's
Before we do that, Hawaii's 2,400 miles from California. Are you suggesting seeds migrated via wind 2,000 miles?
I don't know, but yeah, the seeds actually.
I thought this was the stuff you studied.
Yeah, seeds actually, not the trees part. Yeah, I'll give you that. That's the first time I've ever been asked, how did trees get anywhere? I didn't know that needed to be studied. Hey, how does grass get somewhere? Yes, and a lot of these trees through winds can a lot of these seeds through wind can absolutely get into the upper parts of the atmosphere and be spread all over the place, brother.
I'm just going to double check something really quick, but I'm pretty sure that the endemic trees of Hawaii, the ones that don't appear anywhere else in the world, I'm pretty sure that their seeds are not small. Yeah, these are like beans. These are like beans the size of like a dime. Like these are not going to be flying in the upper atmosphere.
Okay. And then, like I said, you would have huge floating mats to where these trees could have settled on Hawaii. And
What
then
the
they
hell is
could
a
have
floating
stayed there
mat?
because that's where the climate was best for
Good
them,
question.
and then everywhere else. I'm sorry.
What is a floating mat? Is it just like trees that are like floating around in the ocean? I don't think trees do very well floating around in the ocean.
Okay, I don't know what to do with that. Okay, congratulations. Yeah, we see.
I
That
mean, but like
in,
they don't, right? Like trees don't survive just floating in the ocean.
again.
In fact, I don't think
it's
any
not-
plants do.
Yeah, well then you're wrong. They do.
There are plants that survive floating in freshwater lakes. There are floating mats of like moss that like stuff can grow on. There's a famous one, I think it's in Scotland, but that's freshwater, right? Saltwater is really, really bad for plants generally.
Yeah, but during the flood, most of the planet would have been freshwater. You get your salt water through erosion.
That's very confusing. Most of the
I
planet
can
would have been freshwater. So then, how did the saltwater fish survive?
They weren't saltwater fish at the time, and you can do experiments on this. They've actually done it, if I'm not
They
mistaken,
evolved.
with piranha, where you can slowly introduce salt, and then they'll. This is again microevolution. It's not macro, and you can acclimatize fish to saltwater if it happens slowly.
So there are
Vice
some
versa.
there are some fish that exist in the boundaries between salt and freshwater. These
Oh,
are fish
wait a
that
minute.
exist
Now,
near
I'm
the.
confused. So either does it happen or does it not happen? You can
No,
take
no. So
saltwater
I'm
fish
answering your
and
question.
acclimatize
Please don't
them
cut me
to
off.
Yeah,
Please
we
don't
grant
cut me
that you're
off.
I didn't ask
confused. Blitz was explaining it to
didn't
you.
ask the question.
I was in the
Maybe
middle
if
of
you
an
talk over his
explanation. I would be happy to
explanation, you don't have to
continue.
hear it.
You
There are
are
absolutely some
literally
fish that are able to
just
be
interrupting the answer.
acclimatized,
So
if you
you
will,
just
especially
interrupted
those
Whoa.
that are near the mouths of rivers that frequently go between salt and freshwater. However,
So
there are
here's-
fish that are strictly freshwater, and there are fish that are strictly saltwater. And these can't be acclimatized. I'd love you to show me evidence that, like, a sea bass can
I'm
be
trying
acclimatized to
but you
freshwater.
don't shut up. Anytime
Whoa.
I'm uneducated in an argument,
Let's just
and I
calm
say,
down
"Hey,
there,
guys,
mouth
I'm not
breather. Just
educated,"
relax.
You filibust and continue to talk, and then anytime
Whoa,
I
just
actually
calm
give
down
you
there.
the
Let's
answer
just
and show
relax.
you immediately interrupt and don't want me to talk. They have
You
absolutely
interrupted me.
taken freshwater fish and acclimatized. No, I did not. You said you're answering a question. I did not ask.
I was in the middle of a wait, so you did interrupt me. I was talking, and then you talked in the middle.
Absolutely, I'm gonna get it out unless you just kick me. I promise you I'm gonna get it out. You can take freshwater fish and
They're way too much
acclimatize
fun
them
to kick.
saltwater. It's been done, and you can take saltwater fish and acclimatize them to freshwater. 100%. Yes, you can.
Okay, so you're telling me that if you take a true sea bass, then you just put it in and you just gradually expose it, it won't experience fatal osmotic shock when you gradually expose it to freshwater?
Wait, so dramatically or over time?
Just at all.
No, if you do it slowly over time, absolutely.
Okay, where's the evidence of this?
I've done told you. Matter of fact, I give you an example of the piranhas.
We're asking about the sea bass.
Or else, yeah, or all fish actually.
So wait,
to be
here's the
sure, I
argument.
just want
So
to
they've
I just
done
want to
it with
clarify
saltwater,
where the
they've done it
argument
with
is.
freshwater, but
So I just
because
want
I don't have this very.
I just want to clarify where we're at here because I really think that you might have missed what Blitz and Ian were saying, which is that we agree that there are some fish where this could happen. What we're trying to figure out is whether or not you agree that just because it could happen with some fish, that means it can happen with all fish. I think that's what we need the evidence for. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah. So that was my point. And now what you're doing is you want to I gave you examples of where this happened.
You gave me an
I
example, and
See,
there
now you
that's
just
an
want to interrupt
example
me.
of.
Here we go. Yeah, have at it. You don't want a
It just seems like you didn't understand what Justin said. But go ahead.
Yeah, I did understand what Justin said. And then I said I answered that by saying I gave you an example. So could it happen with every single fish now? I don't know. I don't know if your sea bass example, but because this experiment wasn't done with the sea bass, therefore I'm wrong. But because
Well,
it
just like
was
any
done with
freshwater or saltwater fish, like any one of them that's like purely freshwater, purely saltwater.
yes, would you agree that a piranha is purely freshwater?
I thought
No.
a
No, I don't think
piranha
so.
could be either.
No, you don't have piranhas in the ocean.
I'm pretty sure. Don't they live by river mouths, like by the river mouth of the Amazon?
They live in the Amazon, all up and down the Amazon River, and they're freshwater fish, brother.
Yeah, and does the Amazon River go to the ocean?
Doesn't every river go to the ocean?
Yes, and there are
Almost.
freshwater bodies like lakes that don't go to the ocean.
Man, look, this is. I think.
By the way, I just Googled this, and apparently, no, piranhas cannot be acclimatized to true saltwater conditions.
That's what I'm looking at right now.
Let me find. I think it was the piranha experiment that they did it on.
The scientist is actually from the Sapphire Coastal Discovery. It says scientists have recently found a new marine species of piranha called the ocean piranha. So there are some piranha that live in salt water.
Nice.
Good for them.
So proud of
They
them.
just found.
So there are some fish that can adapt, and probably some that can't.
Like I said, I wasn't ready for this. Or usually, when if I'll host a topic, then I'll have my articles up and ready. And I do apologize for not having that because I didn't know what all.
Apology accepted.
Now, before we let you go, because you have been on for a while, and it's been a good show. I just want to know, what is your response to the heat problem?
What you talking about? What it couldn't rain 40 if it rained hard enough for 40 days and for 40 nights to cover Mount Everest.
Well, so the coastal, or sorry, the continental crust's moving at an extreme rate that would allow for the depths, the waters from the depths to be emitted, the extreme rate of radioactivity required in order to have the level of lead that we see in zircon crystals that's present today. There's all sorts of these processes that would produce extreme amounts of heat that have to be compressed down into, maybe a year or a few years during the flood in order to see the effects that we see today. And that would produce tons and tons of heat that somehow has to go somewhere.
You talking about so the heat thing you're talking about is from continental drift, not from the rain.
Continental drift, radioactive decay, yeah.
Right. So, man, this is going to go off into a whole nother subject because radioactive decay, again, you have to assume the parent material in it. And I don't believe in continental drift.
You said that the way that the waters broke out from the depths was that the tectonic plates were moving, did you not?
No, I think they broke open. Yeah, absolutely. And they're moving around.
How did they break open?
I think, now this is a theory, so I don't know. So right off the bat, listen to me very clearly because I don't want
And how did the mountains form?
First of all, I'm saying I don't know how they broke open. The Bible doesn't say.
Okay.
I would imagine it was probably a comet. The comet come in, struck the earth. That's what broke open the earth like an eggshell. The comet tail come in. That's why, and froze that's why you have woolly mammoths that are frozen in a standing position because the extremely cold ice becomes magnetized, and it would have went straight to the poles.
Sorry. Did you say extremely cold ice became magnetized?
No, I'm not saying it did. Extremely cold ice does become magnetized.
Yeah, at like several hundred degrees below zero.
What would a comet's tail be?
A comet's tail is nothing. A comet's tail is just dust and water basically coming off of the edge of the comet. The comet's tail would not cool down the Earth. The comet hitting the Earth would heat up the Earth and then cool it down as we got to a global winter.
You'll know them by their fruits.
Oh, wait, did he run?
Okay. Yeah.
He ran by and then said, to the good doctor, you're too stupid to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, did he say that?
Dr. Blitz is the stupid one. Yeah, of course.
You know me. Well-known dummy.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
What you think? You think the comet's tail is just dust and ice coming off of the comet itself? What an obviously false, absurd statement. I'm gonna leave in a hurry now.
Oh boy. Well, let's grab a couple super chats. We'll get our next guest in here. Rock hard for Doug. Good to see you today. This is just a shout out to my best friend Heather, who tuned in for the first time. Well, congratulations, Heather, and thank you for turning people on to the channel. We really appreciate that. And Mr. Payco, thank you for the $50 super chat. Big W. Says, look, the man in the moon had some severe skin issues. God blasted it with water to do some exfoliation to clear up his complexion. What is so hard about this? It's basic cosmetology. Of course it is. I gotta be honest, that might be the first time I've ever heard the geysers from the flood created craters on the moon. That's a new one for me.
Dr. Blitz,
yeah,
I
like,
don't know anything about physics, but wouldn't the water like evaporate?
Well, some of it would evaporate. I imagine you get some small ice crystals. But if the waters can blast up to the moon with such strong force, we should see like debris from plants being obliterated on the moon.
Yeah.
Like being carried up to the moon by the water.
Seems to be the case.
We should also see ice on the moon, right? Like tons of ice.
A lot of it. Like it's not going to disappear. It's not evaporating.
Like, at the base of all of these craters, there should be tons of ice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got a super chat from I Am the Big Cheese, or sorry, formerly known as I Am the Big Cheese. I am Big Cheese, rather. It says Acts 13:22. I have found David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. He will do everything that I want him to do. What that say about free will or morality? This is the funny thing is because not only does this kind of negate the free will, but it's also wrong. By the way, David doesn't do everything he's asked to do. So it not only is it wrong on that, it's just wrong in general that it's going to come true. Austin, thank you for the $10 super chat, says, this is a new take on Look at the Trees. Ignore the huge number of fossilized trees that are stratified and dated and focus on the few exceptions for which there is also a legitimate explanation. That is the case, right? When you're talking to creationists, it's always the exception that makes the rule for them. They never go the other way around. And Kane says the seeds could have been carried by a swallow, an African swallow. Maybe, but not a European swallow. Those have weaker wing load ratios. Indeed. But it's not a matter of where it grips it. It's a matter of weight ratio. Grim says, was it a fresh water or saltwater flood? Pretty sure most water species don't survive both. Never mind terrestrial plants surviving salt water. That's over my head, Grim. I'm afraid I can't add or comment on that. But it would have been a good question for the guest. It certainly is a good question. I got lots of flood questions.
I mean, he said it was a freshwater flood.
That's right. You're right.
I think it's cool how they all become evolution proponents.
Right.
I know, right?
Very quick evolution, too.
Yeah.
But it's microevolution because the fish only stay fish something.
I love it when animals have to evolve to maintain your non-evolutionary stance.
You think we share a common ancestor with chimpanzee? No, that's stupid. Let me tell you a far more plausible hypothesis.
All of the fish share a common ancestor like 30 generations ago.
Yeah.
They're very prolific.
Do you
Are we
think
gonna
that
do
Noah brought fish onto the ark?
No.
Wouldn't
Probably
imagine
not, right?
so. No. Got 2 more super chats. From Cole McLean says heat versus cold problem for the flood. How does it work? Would it freeze and not ever get the chance for the heat problem, or would the heat occur after? Love the cooking, fellas. That's a question for
Yeah,
Butch.
so there's kind of two things. So the heat problem assumes that they agree with any physics, that like radioactive decay is a thing and that like continental drift to create the mountains is a thing. I guess that's geophysics or geology. But like if they don't think that, if they think that that's just magic, then you can hit them with the cold problem, namely that the Earth was covered with clouds for over a month and that would freeze the Earth like to below zero everywhere, killing everything, including Noah. But the heat problem, if there was a heat problem, if the radioactive decay all had to decay in like the span of a year to account for billions of years of actual radioactive decay, and if the continents had to drift the amount that they would typically drift in millions of years in like a year, that would hugely overwhelm the entirety of the cold problem, and instead you would just end up with the Earth being ionized. It'd be a plasma.
Fuck. And last super chat from E Money Snipe says that dude creation interprets and makes up science without actually studying it, just like Christians do with the Bible. Maybe worse. I don't think that was possible. I didn't think that was possible. That's a fair point, right? The way they treat the Bible, which is we wrangle the words to mean whatever it needs to be. They're doing the same thing with science, right? They're just like, how can I kind of twist the data that we have available to make it mean what I need it to mean, so that I don't have to give up my false cult religion and live in the real world. Anyways, let's grab our next guest. We've got a couple that have been waiting, and some of them, I could be wrong. I think they're specifically waiting to talk to Ian, but the first in line was going to be Real, and then after that, the One. Oh, Real dropped, so it looks like it's the One. Okay, that didn't take very long. Welcome in, the One.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. How you guys doing?
Doing
Good,
well.
how you
What about
doing?
you?
Doing okay.
I've been following each of you guys on your platforms, and this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, but I thought I should step in and say hello.
Sure.
But
That's cool.
I'm the one, just the one you guys have been talking about. How's that?
It's a
You have-
good like WWE intro.
Okay, you have to ask if I'm God now, because I can't say that I am, because that would be blasphemy.
Are you like a vampire?
No.
I have to ask you prior to
Well, I don't want to be
you're
blasphemous,
being
right?
able to engage.
Well, I'm just going to say I'm the one you're talking about, because I don't, yeah.
Okay.
Wait,
What
are you
religion
don't
are
want to
you?
make it too weird. Yeah, you say I am. How's that? There you go. Here we go.
What religion are you?
I am not. I don't have a religion, but I was just going to say I'm the ultimate unfalsifiable causation guy. You know, the God that nobody can prove or anything. So,
Okay. Are you all powerful?
kind of. I could. I everything happened for only one reason. I was pretty good at it. You guys remember the Super Bowl that Prince played? The Super Bowl. Remember that?
I think this guy's trolling.
I am a little bit, yeah, but I thought it'd be
see-
entertaining. I'm
think
probably
that's
not
the
coming off
case.
very good. I'm sorry.
No, you're
But,
fine. We just like to talk to people who actually are believers. You're fine. We're not like mad at you or whatever.
I thought I could create some content and have some fun. You guys, with you guys. I'm sorry if.
That's okay.
okay.
Don't be sorry.
Okay, Prince played the Super Bowl, right? Remember anybody? And it was raining, and he played the song "Purple Rain" in the rain. Right now, if I was God and I made that happen, that'd be awesome, right? From way
if it was-
back when I planned that.
If it was purple rain.
Yeah, you're right. But also, if I created ayahuasca, right? The little plant that makes you trip.
Justin, kick.
Whoa, sorry, buddy.
I'm
can't do
sorry.
that.
You can't say
Sorry.
that word.
He can't name.
Also,
he
why
can't-
were you keeping him on? He admitted to be a troll.
No, I was waiting for him to take a breath so I can tell him it was time to move on, because I think he was trying to be nice. He just was being a little bit winded. But you cannot name substances on the stream, friends. That'll get our channel banned really fast. Please never do that. Thank you for watching the channel, though. We really appreciate that. Okay. Well, with that, let's bring in Pensive from the TikTok queue.
Oh, we know Pensive.
Yeah.
Ian, have
Welcome,
fun.
Pensive.
Hey, how's it going?
Going pretty good.
Yeah, how old are you?
20.
And what religion?
Christianity.
Sure. What's your strongest argument or evidence for God's existence?
It would be like a Robert Collins Bayesian argument for fine tuning. Like the probability that the universe is fine tuning or life permitting given naturalism is much less than 1. It is not the case that the probability that the universe is life permitting theism is much less than 1. And then it's the standard Bayesian confirmation principle that if evidence is more probable in a hypothesis, then it supports the hypothesis. Therefore, the universe being life permitting is evidence for theism over naturalism.
Sure. So there's a couple of things to unpack there. We could talk about like probability space stuff. Do you have a response to electrons and love? Like, why would God, if the nature of God, an immaterial mind, commits you to psychophysical laws where there's no necessary connection between the mind and a brain, then presumably God could make life in literally any universe. So the idea that the constants are this as opposed to something else is actually radically unexpected. So why would God want these constants as opposed to any other constants, given that he could make life in any of them?
Yeah, there's about like there's Devin Cavadon Taylor's paper, are the psychophysical laws fine-tuned, and presumably you can set up a stage 2 argument to go into psychophysical harmony to argue the psychophysical laws themselves are fine-tuned, and that would be evidence for theism. That's what Brian Cutter and these other people do. I mean, I can go into that.
I don't think that's an answer to the question. The question was just, given that God could create life in literally any constants, why would we expect these ones?
Wait, when you say any constant, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, God could. So the universe could be like any constants. Let's say with like some different set of constants, atoms wouldn't form, and it would just be like a bunch of electrons or like, you know, quarks bouncing around. But God imbues the electrons with minds and like a relevant moral capacity. They can love, they can communicate, they can form relationships with God, with each other, etc. So God could have made this with literally any constants. So why would God prefer these constants as opposed to those ones?
Well, that would be one dependent on my axiological commitments on what I attribute to God, like, you know, the typical properties, morally perfect and all these things. But I actually don't think this would contend fine-tuning at all.
But wait, why does moral
this is a
perfection entail
paradox.
this world as opposed to one of those?
Well, because one, electrons being loved near each other introduces like value-laden commitments that have no reason to believe. So you
Like what?
rarely could presuppose metaphysical complexity, axiological inflationary. You're committed to stereogenesis properties about these electrons.
Wait, sorry, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, one, you're committed to axiological inflationary commitments of these electrons. You're also committed to stereogenesis properties about these electrons because there's no reason or not reason, but they would have mental states, have preferences, express things that agents are capable of, in which there's no justification in the original paper which he gives that this is a thing. And two, this is just like philosophy of mind stuff now, but I would say they violate supervenience bases that intentionality requires. So intentionality cannot supervene on physical properties that electrons.
Yeah, wait, let's go through these objections one at a time. So, oh wait, sorry, where the fuck did it go? Okay, sure. So, in terms of like axiological inflation, what do you mean by that?
Well, the reason that fine-tuning is very trivial under like theism is because of the properties that are often ascribed to like whatever God it is, right? But for this electrons and love thing, like one point to consider is that you have to look at what God would endow with these like electrons. So one, love is like a value-laden attentional property. So you would say that under the hypothesis that electrons do love, they have value like facts, like the capacity to love or something. They have
What's the
no. But under
sorry,
like
why is that a
standard,
problem? Like, why is that a reason why God would prefer this universe as opposed to that one?
well, because one, you're inflating your axiological commitments, which isn't expected of your
In what
theism.
way? Wait, what's the axiological commitment that exists in that universe that doesn't exist here?
No, it's just that when you do inflate your axiological, like when you say that electrons love, what you're inflating is that you would need to invoke a ridiculous hypothesis to explain
Oh,
one fact about life remaining constants.
wait, I'm so sorry. So, okay, humans love too. I have no idea how this is an objection to electrons and love. You're saying like we're adding like axiological commitments that electrons would love and love is value laden, but humans love, and if love is value laden, then this axiological commitment exists in this world as well. That means that this critique has failed to address like the key question, which is what does this world have that the electrons in love world lacks? Or what does the electron and love world have that this world lacks, such that either of these things would cause God to make one over the other? So, insofar as this axiological commitment would exist in both worlds, it seems like this world would have more axiological inflation, or maybe we would just say that they have like the same level of it.
Well, then, this only follows if you assign extra properties to humans beyond what's needed to explain the given phenomena. Like if you claim each human has, I don't know, like 100 hidden value properties that don't affect behaviors or outcomes, or you claim human minds exist in order to explain why constants are life permitting, then that would be unnecessary axiological baggage. But the point is that you're already committed to this type of axiological baggage before the hypothesis of electrons and love, and then you're also committed to the axiological commitments of the electrons and love.
But isn't God by his very nature like all loving? Like, isn't this already axiological commitment of Christianity just given like the nature of God?
Yeah.
Oh, then it's not an axiological inflation.
Why? Why does that follow?
Yeah, insofar as the axiology always exists or already exists, like the axiological facts are identical to facts about God's nature, and the idea that love is a part of God's nature and like God's nature is morally perfect, etc. That means that these axiological commitments would already exist just by the very hypothesis of Christianity.
No, the issue is that one, like, there's no reason, or at least not reason, but in the original paper that Neil writes, he gives no reason to justify this electron world in which, like, I don't know, like if we look at God's mentality, like these psychophysical laws apply to creatures whose minds are, I don't know, realized in the natural order of these electrons. But one of the like sort of responses that Taylor would give is that there's like some sort of supervenience hierarchy on like philosophy of mind where God, who has these non-composite, non-physical like properties alongside these psychophysical laws that govern these electrons.
I'm not sure what the critique is. So you're saying that there's like, so Neil gives no reason to justify the electrons. What doesn't he give a reason to justify?
What just happened? Egon. What's Neil's last name?
He's
Neil Sinababu.
Oh.
So it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what's being, and in fact, this is kind of what the electrons in love argument gets at, is that it sounds like in order to get away from the electrons in love argument, you have to assume a sort of physicalist view of the mind. Right? That like all of these things kind of come for free if you have, chemically produced minds, but you have to do something extra if you want to produce minds when it comes to electrons. And I don't think, I imagine that's not what Pensive wants to say.
I'm back. What's up? I'm sorry.
So it sounds like your objection, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like your objection is something like, if we have these physical constants, then we get minds kind of for free. Like you have all these properties that minds can kind of like attach themselves to. Whereas you have to do extra work. You have to assume that there's extra stuff going on for the electrons in order to have all the properties of minds that we want them to have. But that just sounds like
Yeah.
it just sounds like you're making a physicalist argument for the existence of minds.
Well, the issue is that like intentional states, I would agree. Like most philosophers of mine would agree that at least under like the belief I hold to, which would be like a very weird form of dualism, but we don't have to get into that. One is that there's like the supervenience objection that intentional states require like representational content, so they are about something. But representational content requires functional or functional organization, also like to have like some sort of meaning. But electrons lack these these reputational structures, as they only have physical properties. So electrons wouldn't bear intentional states.
Well, not if God
Electrons
imbues them
would
with minds and lets them form relationships with each other. Then they could have representational, like intentional states of each other or of God. And presumably, you think God has intentional mental states, right?
Well, what would be the reason, or not the reason per se, but one of the objections, at least that seems found to me, is that there's no reason in which this electron world could metaphysically exist, given at least the literature seems to not like this paper.
Do you think that minds require brains?
What I mean, when you say mind, do you mean like what do you
Just
mean
like
by
the, I don't know. I could give you like an informative definition, like the thing with mental states. You know, maybe we would say like the thing with intentionality,
I mean,
the thing that experiences,
s-
perhaps.
well, I mean, I see no reason. So sure, I see no reason.
Sure, for why, in terms of, so you would affirm or you wouldn't affirm that minds require brains?
Well, I take a dualist view, so I sort of agree, but like I also like agree there's more about it than just brains.
Do you think there needs to be a material basis for every mind?
When you say material basis, do you mean like fundamentally, or do you mean in conjunction with another
I'm not sure what that
thing?
question is asking.
When you say there's a material basis, are you implying that the basis is the fundamental thing, or are you
No.
asking me?
Just that it needs to have like some sort of like association with like a material thing.
Oh, sure. I would agree.
Then it seems like God's existence would be an impossibility. God couldn't be an immaterial mind if metaphysically minds require an association with a material thing.
Well, then, when you say, well, then I think like there's a different category of like minds here as like, well, not that there's a different category per se, but just that um, God or mental, like, to apply mental predicates to like God. I don't think they're actually analogous, at least to apply our sort of like mental predicates to like God. And the reason I think that is because we can apply mental predicates to God like analogically, but like not evocavely, right? So like God's knowledge does not equal our knowledge. God's love does not equal our emotional states. I would agree that this would also follow for like these types of arguments.
Okay, so when you say God is a mind, you'd be saying he's a mind in like an equivocating sense.
By equivocating, do you mean like what we mean by like a brain or by a mind?
Like it's a fundamentally different category. When we talk about mind, like I have a mind, like and we say God is a mind, God is not the same like type.
Yeah.
God's mind is not the same type. It doesn't share like the mind type.
Yes.
Okay. I guess what does it mean to say that God has a mind? At that point I'm unclear what it means to declare that God is a mind.
Well, I see no reason with, or I see no issue with sort of parroting sort of the same definition you gave, but like sort of giving like a reason as to why like there's some differences that come alongside that definition.
Why did God value the types of minds that we have as opposed to creating electrons and giving them like the type of mind that he has?
Well, as I said, like this would like come down to like the axiological stuff, where I think that electrons in love postulates value-bearing states across like trillions of particles. But one, that's very inflationary, because you would have to commit yourself to at least ontological complexity for the minimal benefit of escaping the fine-tuning argument. Or, like contrastly, like the theistic hypothesis, it explains the same datum with a single mind. And I also think that, at least in philosophy of mind, we would emphasize like supervenience levels. So like minds require like these sort of complex systems, but electrons are
Except God's
subpersonal
mind.
micro. Wait, sorry, which say, Blitz?
Except God's mind. God's mind doesn't require that. Ian's question is merely God's mind doesn't require these complex structures upon which to supervene on. Why couldn't God give the electrons the same kind of mind that he has, which doesn't require complex structures to supervene on?
Because then it'd be sort of a category mistake, as electrons are subpersonal microphysical objects, which would be incapable of supporting any intentionality under like philosophy of mind.
Why? I mean, like, look, just so whatever kind of mind God has, just give those to electrons.
Yeah.
Just smaller.
Yeah, just like imbue him with it.
Well, I don't think that. Well, then I don't think that works, because, like, as I would say, like you would attribute properties to the entities at the wrong like level. Like if electrons like love, I think they would require novel causal powers capable of doing shit like that violates intentional states.
Like what?
Like if I say we direct motion according to like intentional states, I think like Coulomb's interactions change a little bit.
I mean, are you suggesting that the states of affairs that like when humans produce actions, like when we move our arms or whatever, that this is not traceable back to some physical causal origin?
I don't know what physical causal origin means there.
That it's not traceable back to some configuration of atoms moving around and so on.
Well, it's just that I think that there's some sort of incoherence that you would require, like these, like electrons in love, alongside like known physics. I think there's an issue you would endow like a sort of mind that God has with electrons. I think there's some logical issues.
Sorry, but doesn't God get to like make physics? Like, couldn't he just craft the laws of physics such to allow these electrons to have these minds?
Well, if we're already presupposing like nomological regularity with these electrons existing with known physics that accurately describes them, at least in this world, then it would sort of be weird, or not weird, but it would be like a little opaque to one, allow that, and then also allow the electrons to do whatever they want in regards
Look,
to
I mean,
You're getting dangerously close to falling into like a causal closure argument for physicalism.
I mean,
like,
look,
sure, I started
either
different Blitz.
either you hold the position that, like, you know, that I mean, this is exactly what Ian was saying. Either you hold the position that, like, the only things that can happen physically in the universe are governed by physical laws, in which case, then, you know, our actions, the actions that we take, are not directed by some intentionality, or perhaps maybe they can be described intentionally, but like they're not directed by something supervening on them, some non-material thing supervening on them. Or you just accept that electrons could obey Coulomb's law, but could also have intention, in the same way that we obey Newton's laws and we obey all the various laws of physics, and we also have intention. It seems like you're trying to say, well, the electrons couldn't have intention because they have to follow Coulomb's law, but humans can have intention, even though humans also have to follow various laws of physics?
Well, the issue is that like this wouldn't follow for electrons. Like I don't think those would be analogous, because presumably then you could sort of run another counter to like the types of laws that would require this type of mind. Like you can like run psychophysical harmony, as I mentioned. And
Do you think
you would
that
have to give an
immaterial
explanation.
minds can interact with the physical? Do you think like the immaterial substance can interact with like the physical substance?
Or perhaps cause changes in the physical substance?
Yeah.
Well,
Can
it would
immaterial
depend.
causes
It
have
depends what you mean
physical
by interact.
effects? Like, can they do immaterial
Well,
causes have physical effects?
I would say no.
Oh, then I can give you an argument for like physicalism of the mind, which would likewise disprove God. So some mental states have physical causes. No, there are no. There are. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What's the other premise? It's that the physical is closed. That's what the premise is. That physical causes have physical effects. Mental causes do not have, or immaterial causes do not have physical effects, which means that all of the mental stuff must be physical in order for it to stand in a causal relation to, for example, like my mouth moving. Like my mouth moving is a physical effect. And if the only things that can cause physical effects are physical causes, and my mental state is the cause of my mouth moving, then that means that my mental state is physical.
Why would I accept causal closure?
Didn't you
You're
just say
kind of
that?
invoking it here
I
to
thought you
explain
just
why
said
electrons
it.
can't be in love.
Wait, what'd you say? Sorry. There's like two people talking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. So you're basically invoking causal closure here to basically say why it would be kind of incoherent for electrons to be in love. Because, they have to follow Coulomb's law. There's nothing else that could affect their behavior because of because of physical causal closure.
Well, no, I think the issue is that even if you try to imagine like new laws that would allow electrons to
You
love,
don't need new laws. You need the same laws that apply to humans, right? So humans
No, I
humans
mean,
have. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean that like if we give the coherence of regular homological regularity, then in principle, of course, they could imagine new laws, right? And I would think that's an issue because it's multiple. Give me one second.
While we're waiting for Pensive, guys, tap the screen, like and share, and we're gonna be getting a new guest up in here shortly. So if you want to get to talk to us, make sure you get into the guest box or the guest queue now rather than later.
Okay.
Welcome back,
Sorry,
Pensive.
I'm back. Where were we? Sorry, I was.
So look. There's an issue at hand, right? On the one hand, we could say that electrons can't have love because they have to obey Coulomb's law, and like there's just not enough stuff going on in Coulomb's law to like create the feeling of love, if you will, or something like this. And maybe that's the case. But by making that statement, that would require that there's nothing else on top of the electrons. There's no additional properties imbued to the electrons, like a mind, that can kind of allow them to behave in new ways that are not merely governed by Coulomb's law. In which case, then, like, if they could have these new ways to interact in a way that's not governed by Coulomb's law, then they could be in love. But we're saying that that's perhaps incoherent. But then by the same token, it seems like you're forced to admit that humans are solely governed by the laws of physics, meaning that there's no mental effect, there's no intention that's causing us to do these things. It's just the laws of physics doing it. Of course, it's more complicated laws of physics because the systems are more complicated, but it's just the laws of physics at the end of the day. And so then, if you're saying that love is, it sounds like what that requires you to believe then is that love is merely an emergent property of the physical, which then at least heavily implies physical causal closure. That all of this stuff is just physics happening.
Actually, I don't think that. So the sort of argument the sort of argument I set up later was about intentionality. I actually don't think the argument I gave sort of implies physicalism. Well, I was just saying that electrons can, in principle, instantiate intentional states because love is a mental property, and if we were to entertain God sort of endowing his mind onto this sort of like hypothesis that electrons are in love, it's just metaphysically incoherent given that one, the only way to accommodate this data is to ad hocly like sort of stipulate that they have these sort of minds capable of doing these things when the original argument doesn't hinge on that.
I'm fairly and Ian can chime in, but I'm fairly if I understand the argument correctly, it's that God imbues them with minds in the same way that God imbues us with minds.
Yeah.
Well, the issue is that even if we were, or the issue is mostly that there's, at least in philosophy of mind, like Chalmers would agree, or Chalmers and like all those other people would argue that mental states with intentionality require like mostly like what is it, like 3 things, like the states must be about something, and the
Okay,
system's
there's something
capable-
to be about if there's electrons present. What's the 2nd
Mhm.
one?
systems capable of producing and storing and acting on information, I think. Yeah, then
Yeah,
there's
that's
some
what minds are
supervenience
for,
on a suitable-
right?
And
Yeah.
some supervenience on a functional base.
Oh, wait, what is God's mind? Does God's mind have intentionality?
By intentionality, I assume you mean
Like aboutness?
I don't think so.
That raises like innumerable issues, like kind of immediately. So, God doesn't know that 2 + 2 is 4. God doesn't love us. Like God doesn't have
want
thoughts.
anything.
Like,
Well, I don't think those are issues.
It just
what
sounds
is-
like you're not describing. It sounds like you're describing a book, not a mind.
A book?
Yeah, something that's just kind of there and doesn't have any, intention. For example,
Well, I don't see like
just like a collection of true statements, perhaps.
Well, I take a very weird view of truth, but I don't see like what would be the issue.
It just sounds like it's compatible with atheism.
yeah.
Well, presumably the reason we even got on this like electrons and love was in regards to the fine tuning argument. But
Did God
Electrons
have
and
thoughts about like what the finely tuned universe's constants needed to be?
what does that even mean?
Like, did God know what the constants needed to be? Did God have the thought the constants must be this, and this in order for there to be humans?
Well, no.
Then how did he finely tune it?
Well, the issue of fine tuning is brought about like at least by like the nomological constants, right? Those can be in any like particular state that is logically possible, and there will
Well,
be.
I mean, hey, to be clear, that's like an enormous claim.
That's pretty
Right.
standard in literature.
It doesn't make it any less of an enormous claim that they could have been any logically possible configuration.
Sure. I would agree, unless it was like Luke Barnes's like issue, which I think Luke Barnes is a fraud. But the issue is that like in any logically possible way, there would be a class of universes that have these particular properties that are capable of habiting life. In which case, those would all require an explanation.
But it's unclear how God lacking intentional states could be an explanation for this. It's
Why?
unclear that God can will things if he lacks intentionality.
Why?
Insofar as his will would need to be directed at a thing, the only model of like causation that's compatible with God, certainly it couldn't be a contingent model where God's willing something, or actually, wait, you don't even think God wills things, do you?
I sort of do. I'm not really fully fleshed out on that.
How could God will things if he doesn't have like representational content in his mind? Like in order to will something, you would need to have like some sort of representation of that thing.
Well then, I would take that. I don't see why it would be an issue. Like you said, there was an issue with like specific outcomes, like to predict, like I don't know, this ray of fine tuning, right?
Well, just that it doesn't seem like God could do the fine tuning if he can't will things. And it seems like he can't will things insofar as he doesn't have intentional content. Will is directed towards a specific object. When we will something, it's like a specific thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, then, again, I just don't see the issue.
Okay, so which premise would you reject? So premise 1, God lacks intentionality. Premise 2, if God lacks intentionality, then God cannot will things. Or premise 3, if God cannot will things, then God cannot finely tune the universe.
Well, I would reject the last two.
The last two?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Specifically, like the sort of conclusion.
The conclusion?
Oh, sorry, premise 4. My bad.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Classic blunder. Sure. So, no, you're good. So in terms of like willing, would you agree that willing is like, it's like a state that's directed at outcomes? Like willing by its very nature is directed.
Sure.
Okay, and would you agree that in order for it to be directed, it needs to be directed at something?
Sure. Well, then I would have to take back like willing is not
Sure.
an intentional act.
So okay, wait, I guess like how would you want to repair this? Like which premise would you reject?
Well, it seems that I would have to like sort of refine my view, philosophy of mine that
That's fine.
denying that. Look, well, I would have to deny that will is like not an intentional act.
You'd have to deny will is not intentional, so you'd have to
I would have to
affirm
will
that it is intentional. Okay, sure. Wait, so are you saying that you would need to like read up and come back, or are you what are you saying?
Well, I could still defend. Like, granted, I have like a plethora of different types of arguments that are sort of Bayesian in structure. I just think fine-tuning was like another one to run because I ran psychophysical harmony on Blitz, and I didn't want to run it again. But I can. Run it
Sure,
again.
yeah, we could move to psychophysical harmony.
We probably shouldn't because we have some
Oh,
guests, and both Justin
okay.
and I have to leave early today.
Okay, sure. Well, Pensive, I really enjoyed talking to you. You're very well read. I would love to talk to you again in the future.
Of course. Maybe I'll like shoot you a DM. We talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, big W.
All right. Later, guys.
Cheers.
Later.
He was nice. I'm used to Phil Bros coming up here and not being nice and like calling us donuts.
So Pensive is a physics student, I think, and I think was formerly an atheist and is recently a Christian. But what was interesting there is that the God that Pensive was trying to defend is not compatible with Christianity at all.
It's not
Right.
remotely, yeah.
Like
The God of
like that-
Christianity thinks and has desires and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we should. Oh, should we read some super chats before we
Yeah,
move
let
on
me
to our
let me
next
grab
guest?
a couple of super chats. Karen, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Says theists should avoid Bayesian arguments. They never go well because standard response to probability, evil/God, are destructive to Bayesian inference as I'm gonna pretend that I can pronounce this. Plemenaga paper shows it also commits them to God might not exist. Does that make sense?
Ooh,
to
is
you,
this
Ian?
is that the paper that's like, so okay, people take like skeptic, okay, I'm sorry, I need to back up. I need to find like a good entry point into this. So the basic argument is that given evil, or like the probability that evil exists given God is very low. But then of course the standard response to that is that like, well, God has higher ways. But then at that point, what that's saying is that we actually can't predict what the world would or wouldn't look like given God, which means that literally nothing could be Bayesian evidence for God.
Fair.
Like the resurrection could have literally happened, and if that response is true, the resurrection would be zero evidence in favor of God's existence.
And
Because
Yeah,
we can't.
this is the paper. This is the paper. If we can't tell what theism predicts, we can't tell whether God exists.
Yep.
Red Links, thank you for the super chat. Says magnetism provides crucial evidence for seafloor spreading through a pattern of symmetrical, alternating magnetic stripes in the oceanic crust from pole shifts. Creationists never explain this. That's because they don't read any science.
I've never heard of this, but yeah, that sounds plausible at least.
And Rock Altariq says a wild ass hypothesis based on no evidence is not a scientific theory. Comet tail ice, for fuck's sake. Actually, I don't know much about comet tails. I imagine Dr. Blitz knows about comet tails.
If a comet hit the Earth, the least thing you'd have to worry about is the comet tail.
That seems to be the case. And I am
like last time this happened, the dinosaurs went extinct.
True. I am Big Cheese. Thank you for the $10 super chat. It says Christians reject electrons in love argument because their theology claims that man's physical form reflects God's physical form. Jesus, who existed eternally with the Father, God is the Platonic idea of man.
Mm-hmm. Well, then God is finely tuned, unfortunately.
Indeed.
Yeah. Seems to be the case. And last one for now from Peapot Fairy. Good to see your friend. Thank you for the super chat. It says, I don't understand the majority of the convo with Pensive, but if electrons were imbued with God's mind, wouldn't that necessarily mean that they are something other than electrons now?
No, I don't think so. You would say that, like, for example, like you can have a brain that's alive and like active and a brain that's not. You'd say like both of them are brains, but then one of them has like a mind that's like, emergent from it. Likewise, you would say both could be electrons, but like some of these electrons have minds and they feel love. And the big question is, why did God want fine tuning to be this way? If God has the power to make life in literally any configuration of constants, why these constants as opposed to ones where it's just a bunch of electrons, but God gives all these electrons minds? What did he want from this world that he couldn't have gotten from that world?
Right. All right, let's bring in our next guest. We're going to grab Buzz from the YouTube queue. You can get in on YouTube by going to tiny.cc/UAguest, or you can hit the guest request button on TikTok, and we'll get you into the conversation. Buzz, welcome in. Are you at least 18, and do you believe in God?
I've been 18 since 1957, and I am an agnostic.
Okay. We are looking for people who believe in God that are going to debate the position. So are you the type of agnostic that believes or doesn't believe?
I would believe the possibility of there being the universe being God.
So like pantheism.
Seems like no.
Well, first of all, my argument for that would be, first of all, is the universe infinite?
I mean, that's a good question for Dr. Blitz.
Maybe, but like, it seems like that we're not really doing a debate about whether God exists.
Yeah,
right.
We would hate to make you like wait so long just to stand you up at the altar, but we're probably going to move to the next guest insofar as we're really only looking to debate people that think that a mind created the universe.
Okay, before you dump me, I'd like to correct one of the things. Last time I corrected somebody on one of these shows, they threw me off the show.
Okay.
There are green plants in salt water.
Yes, they live in Florida.
They're called algae, and green algae are...
We're talking about like macroscopic plants.
No. Green algae are considered plants.
No, we were evidently talking about macroscopic plants like grasses, trees, bushes.
Yeah, well, you ever hear of eelgrass? Eelgrass is a flowering plant that lives in salt water.
Right, but like trees don't. Like the trees on the land, they don't live in salt water. So like the argument still stands. We can just restrict the class to trees and grasses and bushes that live on land.
What you're saying is that plants that live on land don't live in salt water?
Yes.
Well, of course they don't.
Right, so they would die.
But plants that live in salt water live in salt water. So
sure,
yeah, we agree.
We agree.
So I don't get, and also fish can live in salt water or fresh water. Some of them move between the two.
Some do.
Some of them are strictly
Most don't.
salt, some are strictly fresh, and
yeah, we agree.
That's what we said.
in
Well, Buzz,
total
you're-
agreement.
You're a nice enough guy, but I don't know if you're the opposition we're looking for. But thanks for stopping by, and we hope you have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Cheers.
Later, Gator.
I feel bad that he waited in the guest box, but he's not really opposition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That's I feel bad about things like that. But then, if you don't want that to happen to you, just fit the requirements.
Right. Let's bring in RX Ponder. Welcome in, RX. Are you at least 18, and do you believe in God?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
You're quiet, but we can hear you.
Hey. Okay, sorry about that.
There you go. Now we can hear
so-
you.
Perfect, thank you. So I guess the premise I wanted to talk about today.
Well, we needed an answer to the questions. Are you at least 18, and do you believe in God?
Yes, sorry for the delay.
Dope. Very good. Now go ahead. What were you going to say?
I guess the premise I wanted to discuss surrounds creation of life itself. I think one of the grievances I have from an atheist standpoint has to do with why the kind of novel creation of life doesn't happen organically more than the initial event that took place billions of years ago. If we have the building blocks available for this to happen organically on a regular basis, why don't we see that?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? So let's say that you are rolling, like you're rolling 20-sided dice, and there's, I don't know, 1 million copies of yourself rolling 20-sided dice every single day as much as you can, and this continues for like 1 billion years. What are the odds that one of these people is going to get, like, I don't know, call it like 2020s in a row?
Yeah, incredibly low. I agree.
Well,
Um,
I don't know if
incredibly high.
incredibly high.
oh, sorry, 2020s in a row. Sorry, yes. Over
Yeah.
billions of years, yes.
Yeah, like millions of opportunities over billions of years.
So, look, the symmetry breaker here is that it may very well be the case that life can form spontaneously in certain environments. Maybe it happens once every 500 million years. Let's say that that's frequent enough that happens once every 500 million years on Earth. Now, the first time it happened, that life would have nothing to compete against, and so it would propagate and spread all over the world. And then the next time it happened, it would instantaneously die away because it's surrounded by organisms that have been evolving for 500 million years to consume those resources.
And if the probability is so low that it's happening like once every 500 million years, this is not the type of event that we would expect to observe in a lab because it's rare. It's a rare event, but one that nevertheless happens.
I do appreciate the view that from a competition standpoint, that it would be very challenging to start fresh in an environment where things have had billions of years to compete and fend for themselves and be built in a way that they can take resources from their competition. I do still take grievance with the laboratory point that was made, because I think a lot of the times we'll get news articles that says there's the building blocks on comets and other planets and so forth. But in the absence of competition, again, we don't see these life forms being created. And again, maybe it's a matter
so
of...
to be clear,
Go ahead.
it's actually not clear. So, I mean, clearly this isn't going to happen on comets. Comets are very, very cold and geologically inactive.
Yeah.
So there's just like you might have stuff on comets, but you're not going to have like active chemical reactions happening particularly quickly. But like we haven't looked very hard for life existing anywhere else, for like actual life. And, you know, like we've looked on Mars, we've looked on the moon, we've maybe kind of sort of looked on Venus, sort of. And obviously we've looked on Earth. It doesn't exist on the moon. The moon's basically dead. It may or may not exist on Venus. We haven't really looked hard enough. And, you know, there was recent evidence that came out from NASA claiming that there's very strong evidence that life once existed on Mars. So it actually seems like the contrary, that where life can arise, it does arise, seems to happen. It seems to be the case.
If it's a matter of kind of ideal environment, like you're saying, then I would think that from a laboratory standpoint, it would be relatively simple to replicate the ideal environment and create new life. But I don't know, and I might be naive to this, that that's ever been shown in a reasonable level where you can create a new organism. You can create RNA sequences. Maybe you can even get to the point, and there's different stages to life forms. Like there's debate whether a virus is truly a life form, and that gets very technical. But I don't see the evidence that has ever been achieved on a laboratory setting, even in the most ideal
Suppose
of
that it's very
circumstances.
rare. Suppose that it's very rare that it can only happen on a planet-sized body with the right conditions once every 500 million years. Well, a laboratory is much, much smaller than a planet, and it hasn't been around for 500 million years, so we just wouldn't expect to see it happen.
But I don't agree with that premise that it happens every 500 billion years either.
I mean,
because
obviously,
I
it's
think
just like an analogy.
Yeah.
But like, suppose it's very rare.
It is.
Suppose it's so rare that even given a chemical laboratory the size of a planet, it only happens, over spans of millions of years once. Well, then of course we're not going to see it in a lab on Earth.
But again, I think it's an easy out. I think it's an easy out to say if you left nature to its devices, and nature including inorganic, circumstances, that this is only going to happen X amount of billions of years. But you think we could accelerate the probabilities within a laboratory setting?
I mean,
because
why? Like,
making it more.
we know sufficiently little about this. We know sufficiently little about the whole origins of life. Like, as you said, we haven't done it. Like, we have a lot of good ideas as to how it would happen, but we don't have the exact process down pat, right? We know sufficiently little about it
Sorry,
that, like,
please go
on what grounds do you think that we should have been able to accelerate it to make it happen in a lab if it could happen in a lab? That just seems like a statement without grounds.
Because of the concentration of these organic molecules needed to create life. That would be my argument. You could say within a vast ocean, on Earth, yes, you're probably not going to have a high concentration in every facet of Earth.
Concentration doesn't always make things happen. Doesn't always make things more likely, right?
Fair, but I do think it does improve. I think it does improve the probability. I mean, if you have nucleic acids or the building blocks for nucleic acids, for example, in a confined area with the protein, so forth, I think it does improve the probability if you have the right temperature as well.
I mean, it's just strictly not true. And I know very little about chemistry, but I do know that there are certain acids, for example, that dissolve like things like metals or gold in particular, like aqua regia, fastest when the concentration is a particular value, and if the concentration of the acid gets more concentrated, it dissolves it more slowly. So it's just not clear to me that like we need that there's any way to speed this up.
I don't know. Maybe I'm an idealist in that regard, and I agree to disagree with you there. But I don't know. And maybe you can speak to from a physicist standpoint. When we're trying to recreate certain phenomena, and I think there are ways to make it happen in a way that's more common than what you would just see naturally, waiting it to occur. But I don't know. I'm kind of spanning beyond my scope of knowledge.
Actually, it's a good example, right? Because like, try as we might, there's nothing you can do to make, say, I don't know, uranium decay faster. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
It'll never decay
That's a fair
faster.
point.
You can't like increase the concentration of uranium to make it decay faster. It doesn't work, right? There are certain physical bounds on the rates of processes.
That's a very fair point. And maybe that's where the limit is. Maybe biologically you can make it more ideal, but the physical nature of it maybe does not get altered when you adjust those variables. But it is a matter of just not knowing what variables are essential, as you said. And I think that's what makes it challenging, and it makes it hard for me to grasp. I think if there was an ability to recreate life, I think that really, and life as in new life forms, I think that would drastically change my views. But as it stands right now, just saying that, it happens sporadically and we can't change that, I think weakens the atheist argument.
So
Wait,
I
why?
think that-
Hold on. I think
Not at
that
all.
like super doesn't follow. I feel like the atheist could be completely agnostic. They could say, we have no idea how life got here, and that wouldn't be any evidence against the position because there's literally no evidence that God did it.
Yes, I guess it would be unfair for me to say it weakens it and strengthens the God argument. I think right now, as it stands, it's equivocal. There's no evidence to say it does happen organically because we can't reproduce it in any way, shape, or form. We can't capture it anywhere else where it's taken place. But you're right, you can't then just default and say God did it. I understand
and
where that has.
And by the
been
way, I'm
issues in
very
history.
skeptical of the claim that anybody who's a theist would see the, like, suppose for a moment that we did recreate like genuinely new life from primordial soup or whatever in a laboratory. I'm very skeptical that any theist would then go say, "Oh yeah, that means that it can happen naturally." They would instead say, "Ah yes, it required an intelligence to make it happen." Like, I can't imagine that would ever convince anybody who's already a theist.
Well, yeah, maybe convincing. We have many reasons we believe that go beyond one facet. I think that's true.
Well, no, I mean, I
don't
think
know.
that people would take that as evidence that it requires intelligence, right?
I can see where you're going with that, and I'm no philosopher, so I can't really, get into that the way you guys do. But I think again, I think just biologically, we can recreate many a phenomenon, that get into the realm or blur the lines between artificial and natural, as mentioned, including shells of organisms to perform medical procedures and things of the sort. But again, it's just odd to me that it hasn't gone there. But that's really the extent of my argument. I don't have anything additional to add beyond this creation of life question. I appreciate you running through that with me.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming up. Cheers.
Take care.
Well, I'll tell you what. He was calm and collected, at least. We had a couple of really nice guests today so far.
Hmm.
Now, unfortunately, I have to go in a few minutes. Or fortunately, I get to go celebrate my friend getting married. So should we read some super chats and then I'll dip out, then you guys can continue?
Yeah, I
Sure.
think so. I think so. Miko, good to see you, my friend, says, Jesus said, some who are standing here will not taste death. Sounds to me the majority standing there will die, but some won't. Can I infer that? I think so, Miko, because some is never all, and it's always more than one, which means some of them would be alive, but not all of them would be alive. And if all of them aren't alive, then it entails that some of them are dead. So I think your reading of the passage is what anyone else would take from the passage is, hey, some of you dudes aren't going to be dead. We know some of you will be dead when I come back. And reality is, in order to make this mean anything other than the plain reading of the text, you have to be a dishonest apologist.
Yeah, by some of you will still be standing here. He meant himself. Or some of you will not taste death. He meant himself.
Dr. Excel says all three of you are on a roll on your solos, and together you're even greater. Keep it up. Well, thank you. We really appreciate that. And
It's like when the RZA did his own thing, but he was still part of the Wu-Tang Clan. Or like when the SZA went solo, but he was still part of the Wu-Tang Clan.
Indeed.
It's like that.
It is fun, though. Blitzine and I have been on TikTok together for a long time, so it's fun to like watch your friends grow and expand their reach. It's been a blast.
Yeah,
Adele,
we're on our come up.
Adele, thank you so much for this super chat. So this super chat is essentially in appreciation of Ian's silly goose phone case. I never noticed it until just now.
That is a very silly
That's
goose.
amazing.
Yeah, look at these silly gooses.
By the way, someone,
Nice.
please tell me that you guys get the reference. It's from a movie.
No,
No.
It's from Pop Star.
never even heard of
Never
it.
Stop, Never Stopping. Okay, it's a
Nope.
parody of anyway. It's very funny. It was a reference to a thing. Okay, never.
Sorry, friends. I don't know anything about pop culture. Metal says, thanks for making me like Sundays again. Ian, what books would you recommend to start learning about philosophy? Paycheck
Great
came,
question.
so it's time to buy books.
Yeah, you should get Michael Humer's Knowledge, Reality, and Value. It's the best introduction to philosophy that I know of. I think I'm coming more to the opinion over time that it's probably the wrong way to read philosophy, to start at the beginning and then work your way up. I think probably what you should do is just learn like a lot of like philosophy words and philosophy terms, and then just start raw dogging the issues that you find interesting. If the arguments that these old people give, like people like Kant, people like Aristotle, people like Plato, if those arguments are good, they'll still be getting made. So you should empower yourself conceptually with books like Knowledge, Reality, and Value by Michael Huemer, and then you should try to find things that you're interested in. Maybe you're interested in philosophy of religion, so you could read up on like the problem of evil. Felipe Leon has an excellent blog titled Ex Apologist that gives 200 different papers that give arguments for atheism. So genuinely, like, look up the Ex Apologist blog and start reading those. It's like a really fun, great thing that I think is like basically anyone could do.
Nope. Fantastic. Space Lord says if the big dinosaurs died out less than 10,000 years ago, is it weird that we never find dinosaur DNA? Oh, it's actually a pretty good point. Because if the dinosaurs died in the flood, theoretically we should find some like remaining dino DNA, shouldn't we? Dr. Butts, do you know how long DNA can survive?
Longer than that. It is weird. The other thing is like, why specifically the dinosaurs that died out? Like, there were dinosaur-sized or chicken-sized dinosaurs. Why would they have died out, but the chickens didn't, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
There's a lot of questions. Miko coming in again says, my imaginary privy council, Justin, Alex O'Connor, Blitz, and Brian Cox, Ian Gutsit Gibbon, but I need a geologist who. I don't really know any geology people in the field other than Mike Burgandy. He's a
geologist?
He got his background. His education was in geology. I don't know if he ever worked as a geologist, but that was his education.
There is a guy. It's not. I don't think his name. What is his name? Oh God, I forget his username. I know his real name, but I'm not going to say it because I don't think that's public knowledge. There's a geology guy on TikTok who used to do these debates a lot more, and makes really, really, really good content, but it just doesn't catch on for some reason. But he's a geologist. Anyway, he exists, so that'd be cool.
Let me grab 2 more super chats. We're going to get our next guest in here.
Supposedly all the geologists went and worked for the Creation Institute.
That's why.
That's where you go after your geology career fails.
Oh no. Craters on the moon were made by holy earth gushers, and the Grand Canyon was made by Paul Bunyan's axe. Come on, guys, get with it. I forgot about that. You're right. That is fair.
I do have to run, but go ahead and continue without me. Enjoy.
Thank you so much for being here, Blitz. It's great to see you, buddy.
Bye-bye.
I Am Big Cheese says, if there's no rain before the flood, so then there's no water evaporation. Was pre-flood world a wet sauna? I mean, I don't think so. But listen, there's a lot of questions about the pre-flood world. It's hard to actually know. Harrowing, thank you for the 666 super thanks. Thank you, my friend. And all right, let's get Becky into the conversation. Welcome in, Becky. Are you at least 18, and do you believe in God? Becky? Becky? Did you request by accident, Becky? Can you hear us, Becky? Okay. Well, we'll drop you down. Thanks for stopping by. Okay. Let's grab the Black Pyramid. If they can connect. You can do it. Or not. Okay, well, while they're connecting, Interstate, thank you for the super chat, says this panel is uniquely qualified to debunk faith healers as preachers use a combination of physics, faith, and psychology to fool their audience. Actually, you know what? The faith healing is funny because people have been doing fake like miracles for centuries, and it's weird that nobody goes like, "Hey, people have been faking this forever. Maybe they're faking it now." But that inference for some reason doesn't come up in churches all that often. And Tim says, "Boy, I hope Derek joins today. Can't wait to hear about the imagination stored in my toenails." Oh, Derek. What? It wasn't Derek. It was what was his name from last night's stream? Decker. Decker from last night's stream he was an amazing guy. Can't wait to see him crash out on more live streams. Okay. Well, that didn't we didn't get any connection there. So to move on to the next caller. Try to get Michael into the conversation. We had some long conversations, so some of the people in the guest box might not really be in the guest box anymore. But Michael, welcome in. Are you at least 18, and do you believe in God?
Hello. Oh, hello.
Yeah, how you
Yes,
doing?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
Doing well. Thanks for asking. Michael, which God do you believe in?
I'm Christian and I'm 42.
Cool. Awesome. What do you think is the best evidence or argument for the Christian God?
I can give what I think, but I was wondering, would you like to chat about when you're talking about Jesus, and he says, "Some of you won't taste death until you see me coming." That verse, I heard you guys chatting about it earlier.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. I assume you have an interpretation of that verse that makes it not a lie. What do you think is the interpretation?
So when I read the Bible, I've always just thought that was talking about his transfiguration.
Sure. I mean, that's what a lot of people say because the very next chapter is the transfiguration. But the reality is, it wouldn't have come true if it was about the transfiguration. So, for example, what it says in the passage, it says, "The Son of Man is to come with his angels in the glory of the Father, and he will repay everybody for what has been done." Which means, like, just walking up on a mountain and glowing isn't what he's talking about, because he didn't come from anywhere. Like, when he's coming with the angels, every time this phrase shows up in the Bible, it depicts him coming on the clouds of heaven with the angels, not walking up a mountain. It's also true that he said, "Some of you standing here will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." And that entails that between then and the transfiguration, there should have been some of the disciples die off, but it was only 6 days between that quote and the transfiguration.
Um, so I interpret the some meaning like some of you guys standing around here.
Mhm.
And in terms of like, I see like the second coming is like a different event, and he was just trying to say, you're going to see me like in my revealed, like powerful, like kingdom self, like how I am in my kingdom.
I mean, that'd be great if he said that, but that's not what he said, right? What he said is that they'll see him coming with the angels in the glory of his Father, which is a reference to Daniel 7, when the Son of Man comes on the clouds and God grants him all the kingdoms of the earth and he judges mankind. That's what's being referenced here.
And you said, and it's being referenced because of the word kingdom.
No, the entire passage says so. It says the Son of Man, which is a messianic title that comes from Daniel chapter 7, is to come with his angels. Where do you think he's coming from?
Maybe can you tell me what passage you're reading? Because I looked at the ESV, NIV, and King James Bible for Matthew, Mark, and Luke. All right.
I'm in the NRSV updated edition. And it just says the Son of Man is to come with his angels. So, like, where's he coming from?
And what verse? Sorry.
Where is he coming from? The verse is on the screen.
Sorry, I just see 27. Okay, sorry. What chapter and book?
The one you quoted, Matthew 16, 27, and 28.
16:27. Truly, I say. Okay. Oh, so you're going the one before. Truly, For the Son of Man to come with angels in the glory of, and he will repay everyone for what has been done. Truly I tell you, there are some standing here not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. So is it not like saying
So
27 is, I'm going to come back and this is how it's going to be, and then he's bringing it a bit sooner, saying, and some of you are going to see what I'm like before you even die.
well, he didn't say that.
That
Again, he doesn't say some of you will see me radiant or you'll see me glorious. He says coming twice. Where's he coming from?
truly I tell you, some saying he will not taste death before they see the man coming in his kingdom.
Like
Okay,
you
I
have to
never
come
noticed that
from
word
somewhere,
coming.
right?
I wonder, coming in his kingdom, I'm just trying to picture like the transfiguration where he's there and then suddenly he turns white, sparkly, and they see, Moses and Elijah. Would that describe like see him coming in his kingdom?
Nope. He was stationary. He was chilling on top of a mountain. He didn't come from anywhere. So basically, this is saying that you will see me coming, which is a statement of arrival, not a statement of an appearance, of like appearing like something. It's just in a statement of translocation.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I never focused on the word coming before.
Well, it's kind of important. And to be fair, like
Yes, no, it is.
if you're well read on the Bible, you would know that the coming of the Son of Man is like a really important theme, at least in Jesus's time period, right? That's why he refers to the Son of Man. And so, like, we can compare this to the other quotations, like he says in Matthew 24 about his coming on the clouds and everything. Says immediately after the suffering of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And then he says, from the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as its branches become tender and put forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see these things, all these things, you know that he is near at the very gates. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. So he uses almost the same phraseology about the Son of Man coming on the clouds with the angels, judging mankind. And it says, this generation will not pass away until all of these events preceding it take place. But, I mean, though they're all dead, they're all gone.
Fair enough. I will look into that. That's 34. Is this still the same chapter?
This
No,
is
this is
Matthew 24, verses 29 through 34.
24. Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll look into that.
Yeah, sure thing.
And then electrons in love. You were chatting about that earlier, and to me, I was just thinking like we wouldn't watch a movie about some electrons spinning around having thoughts. Like it just wouldn't be exciting. And like God, if we made in his image and we love exploration, we love the variety in life and how everyone's different, and we love adventure. And so in that way, like why would to me it makes sense that God made us in a way that we can have and experience all these kind of things.
Well, wait, so you're saying that the reason why God picked this specific way of life as opposed to that one is because he found it more exciting?
That more exciting. Maybe that we could have a more colorful life, and that electrons in love, I don't see how they can execute any actions that are impactful and will have like where you could have would you watch a movie about electrons spinning around? Like, I think
No,
that's a
but maybe
good
if I
way to
was an
try and
electron
describe.
that had a mind and felt love, maybe I would. Maybe that would be really interesting to me.
Okay, and then, but in terms of being able to play out life, like I don't see the beauty in. Okay, yes, this life has tragedy, but the beauty in life, it's almost like saying it's better to have never loved than to have loved and lost, kind of thing, is how I feel about electrons and love.
I have no idea how that responds to the argument. The argument's just pointing out that the universe isn't really finely tuned under the theist worldview because there's no real reason why God would want humans as opposed to electrons and love. Like, what does God get from humans that's like a morally relevant feature that he couldn't get from electrons and love? It needs to be morally relevant. Otherwise, God is motivated by things other than his perfect goodness. But it doesn't seem like there's anything morally relevant that humans have that electrons and love would lack.
Okay, I see the point of the argument. What about humans can be tempted? Like, how would electrons be tempted and exploit other electrons? And
They could have minds, which means that they could lie to each other, they could deceive each other, they could form relationships with each other. They could have like a reputation as to the type of person that each electron is. And then they could have complex, evolving social dynamics.
but like, so you're saying that we just take all physical hurt out of the world, and we just have mental or psychological hurt. And
Yeah, that would be
that's
pretty cool.
would be a lot better.
I certainly think so.
And then that would
Well,
make
actually,
like,
wait, that is a good point. Like, don't you think that that world would be more better than this one? Wouldn't it be a better world if the only sorts of harm that you can experience is, social harms of like being rejected by a group as opposed to like physical harms like being like kidnapped and, you know, having horrible things done to you?
I guess, I mean, that's like saying, what if I just took your brain out and put it in a jar of like a titanium robot so that you can't be hurt physically? You kind of lose a certain part of your life in terms of the physical joy of being able to explore and interact with the physical world. That there's a beauty and a joy in that.
So the problem that I would take with the robot is that the type of rejection that I would experience is a social one. I'd experience lots of social harms if I was a robot that had like a brain in it. But I mean, if you gave me the option, I'm immune from physical harm. Yeah, I'd probably take that. There isn't really a downside to that.
So still have a physical body, but immune to physical harm.
Yeah. And I mean,
I
I think
guess.
like exploring the physical world is pretty cool. I'm with you on that. But I don't think that the goodness of exploring the physical world outweighs the badness, like the fact that people get like kidnapped and raped and unalived. I just don't think that these things are very comparable.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about that in terms of like. I feel like it adds to life. That in general we're not all being. It is really unfortunate that there is so much physical pain in the world, but I do think there's also a benefit aside to our physical bodies. But yeah, I hear you. Why didn't God create it the other way? I would go back to the Garden of Eden and that whole train of thought there.
Sure, but is there any evidence that the Garden of Eden happened?
Okay, yeah. So as a Christian, I have faith, and in terms of that part of the Bible, I just kind of believe it because it's in the Bible, and I don't have good evidence for that.
Okay.
But in terms of evidence, I can tell you, like for me, the evidence is the supernatural and how I reconcile that. I feel that belief in God explains the most to me. In terms of like, there's certain things I feel like are supernatural beyond the material realm, and that you can't just explain by hallucinations. Like I could tell you
Like
a
what?
story from.
Can you? Well, we don't care about your personal
Okay.
experience, but we would like to hear if there's an argument about something that can only be explained via God.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd go for that.
Well, in terms of personal experiences, what if there were 3 other people in the room who could testify the same thing?
It wouldn't
Then
matter
how-
much to me because personal experiences, even of the type you're referring to, happen in all kinds of religions. There are witnesses to mass hallucinations. There are witnesses to like faith healings in Eastern mystic religions. There are so many like personal experience and anecdotes in every religion that the only way we could possibly understand them is that all of the religions are true, or none of them are true.
So I hear that. I would say that there's a counterfeit in terms of you can go to, like, say, a spiritualist and they'll so-called heal you, but then you're actually dealing with demonic forces, is my belief.
Well, they might say that your God is a demonic force.
Yeah, sure.
So
Uh,
they
well,
haven't
it's
really fixed
interesting
much.
in that where I live, there's quite a few Hindus too, and they'll say, yes, pray for me. I've heard Jesus heals. They don't mind if you pray for them.
Sure. And
Happy.
Asclepius too. We have thousands of ancient accounts of Asclepii healings.
Okay.
You know, it's just
Yeah,
one of
so
those things where like you don't believe Asclepius is real, do you?
I actually don't know what that is. Sorry.
What did Jesus say when he was accused of casting out demons in the name of a demon? What did he say?
He said, if I cast it out in the name of Beelzebub, then, Satan divided against Satan can't stand.
That's right. So it wouldn't be wise to think that demons are giving people the power to heal people because it would be a house divided.
Yes, so I'll tell you, one church I used to go to, the one preacher there used to be a spiritual medium. And she said she would heal people, but they'd always come back with something worse. And that it's almost like, I'm not saying all physical things. I say the vast majority of physical things are not demonic. But I believe there are some things that are demonic. And so one would go away and a worse one would hop back in like a week later or 2 or so. And so it wouldn't actually be healing, but have the appearance of it.
But that's certainly an excuse I would make if like I needed to find a reason why demons are casting out demons or why evil entities are healing people. But that's like just another unfalsifiable claim.
Yes. But then I would say, okay, what if
listen,
you
Michael,
went to it?
We're kind of running out of time on the live stream. I want to get one more guest in here before we have to read our super chats and stream. But we appreciate you coming by and chatting with us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Another chill guy. Where are we getting so lucky?
Have a good night, guys.
Have a good one, friend. Yeah, we actually did have a number of chill people up here so far. All right, friends, we're going to bring in Daniel, and then we're going to read what's left of our super chats after Daniel. And thanks for being here. We really appreciate everyone who's liking, sharing, and supporting the live stream. Daniel, welcome in. Are you at least 18? And do you believe in God?
Yes, I believe in God, and I'm 37.
Cool. And which God do you believe in?
God, just in general.
Oh,
As
so
like,
you
there's
don't
a creator.
you don't believe in
Now, see,
Allah
this is what I
or
don't like about
Jesus or
Sure.
Jesus. I believe existed based off of what we have, the information that's available. to people.
sure. Was Jesus part of a
And
Trinity?
I'm not going to speak on any of those issues. What I'm going
Right.
to
So
speak
what
on
we're
is
trying to
that
do is figure out what
Yeah,
you
what he's
actually
gonna do is
believe before we
dodge.
get started. So
there's
we
a
want to
creator,
we want to know
and
what
that
your belief system is. So, for example, do you have a name for your God? Is it like Yahweh or Allah or Jesus or
no,
Vishnu or Brahma?
no,
Okay, so what do you say when you pray? What title?
I don't pray
Oh, you don't pray. Oh, interesting.
because
And so
what
your God doesn't have a religion or a book?
my issue is that
So hold
2,000
on,
years ago
we're
people
still
wrote.
trying to figure out what you believe. So does your God
I
have a
believe in a
religion or a
creator and an
book?
architect of the universe that we live in today, and it was not spontaneous. There was a creator.
Gotcha. So you don't have a religion then?
I believe in Christian values,
What
but
a
I do
lot.
not
Oh,
associate them
there we
with
go.
anything.
Finally, we got it. Okay. He's a
But I
Christian and
listen.
he's
I do not.
lukewarm and he wants Jesus to spit him out of his mouth, according to Revelation chapter 3. Jesus said, if you deny me before men, I'll deny you before my Father in heaven. I'll never understand Christians getting up here and not standing 10 toes down on the fact that they're Christians. It's embarrassing, but go ahead and give your argument now.
Yeah,
There's
why should we
nothing
think that
embarrassing
God
about that.
exists? Well, let's just calm down there. He
If you
seemed really
believe in a
upset.
moral set of values that are mostly Christian in your eyes that you can abide by, like the 10 Commandments is something that I feel I could abide by that.
But so
That
you
does
do
not mean
think
that I
that
need
there's
to.
no God but the one God? So you are a Christian?
There is a creator, an
What
architect.
was that? Sorry, what's the first commandment? Do you know?
There's no other God.
Tragic.
What's the last commandment?
I don't know, probably don't steal or no adultery. I'm not sure what order they're in.
No, it's not. It's do not covet. And do you know that you're also not allowed to covet your neighbor's slaves? Isn't that a weird thing that the most 10 vital commandments of all of history includes owning slaves?
Because it was done 2000. The book
Is that
was written 2,000
is that
years ago,
morally
my friends.
perfect?
Yeah.
You are if I had put you into a debate in the year 4050, you guys would sound very uneducated and you would be laughed at the same way you're laughing at the people who wrote a book 2,000 years ago.
It's adorable that you didn't answer the question. Is slavery morally perfect?
Yeah.
Did you not hear what I said though?
Yeah, we
did,
ignored it
but you
because
just
you
dodged.
ignored our
Yeah, so
question.
I'm gonna
You know, you
So-
said what
Do you
you
think-
said was, well, if you debated these people 2,000 years ago, you'd sound crazy to them. But that doesn't answer the question. We just want to know if you think slavery is morally perfect.
I don't.
Oh.
Oh, was it so when God said you can own slaves, God was being morally imperfect?
I don't know what God created the initial conditions of the universe. There's a creator, there's an architect.
Right, that's adorable,
and
but
you
doesn't actually
guys are
answer the
trying to-
question. So the question was
come up
God
here and
morally
say that doesn't
perfect when he
exist.
said that you can own slaves?
Who created the universe on your end?
Again, that's just a dodge, and we're not
Do
going
you
to
have
allow
anybody?
it.
Do you know,
So
like, how the Big Bang emerged?
Wow, this
So
guy
it
this
doesn't
guy's
answer
like
the
desperate
question.
to
He's
scramble away from the
terrified. So
conversation.
was
You know, he
slavery
wanted to
morally
bring up.
perfect?
Do you have a standard model of
He
quantum
accepts
and
he
the
accepts
laws of
his
physics being matched? You don't even know-
standards
you don't
from the
have any of that
Bible, and then he wanted to bring that up. He was very insistent on it, but he doesn't actually want to go 10 toes down and defend a thing like that. And who can
Yeah.
blame him?
I
Because
wouldn't
you're-
want to. If I was a Christian and I knew that God allowed for slavery, first of all, I wouldn't be dumb enough to bring up God's laws, but I definitely wouldn't run
God
from
did not
it.
Do that. You're reading a book
So,
written by man.
so
Don't
God,
forget that.
so when the
Oh.
book says God said something, we shouldn't believe it?
You're believing the person who said that God said that, not God
No,
himself.
no, you are. I don't believe this book is true. You believe this book
I don't
is
believe
true.
the fucking book. Oh, the book's true either.
Oh, okay.
What
So
part am I?
then did God give the 10 Commandments or not?
Then you super don't follow the 10 Commandments
Moses
then.
gave the 10 Commandments.
Oh, so not God.
Nobody
So
has
if
proof.
when the book says that God gave it, that's not true. When the book says that Moses gave it, why should I believe that even that's true?
But why aren't you allowing a Christian.
again, the question
not believe in any of the
was,
things that were written by man. but
if the
having a
Bible's
connection
not
to the
true when
higher
it
power.
says that God gave the laws, why would I believe it's true that even Moses gave laws?
Moses was a human being on earth
Prove
that
it.
other people interacted with.
Prove it.
If you're gonna do that whole prove it thing,
Well, the only
good
evidence you have
evidence.
is the Bible, but
Then
you said the
prove-
Bible's not
prove-
trustworthy.
prove that God isn't real.
Well, we don't have to. I mean, we do
It's
have
a-
good arguments
it's a
for it,
great
though.
pivot.
I'm
So
pretty sure
you made
don't
a
have any
claim,
good
you don't want to
arguments
substantiate
because,
it.
like
You know,
I
just
said earlier,
just because I
you've
love
made up science has
shutting
made
up
up a
these
bunch of
guys, what I can do is just demonstrate that for you. Yeah. Either God was eternally willing the universe into existence, he was eternally in a state that was sufficient for the creation of the universe, or he wasn't. If he was eternally in a state that was sufficient for the creation of the universe, then the universe is eternal, meaning it was never created. So it can't be that, which means that
You're
God
wrong.
must have
You're
at
wrong.
one point. Oh, wait, so God was eternally creating the universe?
The universe does not have to come straight from God. God to a higher power down underneath God, and then those people created the universe.
Sure. Wait, so
God
God
can be
got some
eternal, but that doesn't mean the
subcontractors. He
universe has to be created
subcontracted the
directly by
creation of
God.
the earth.
So God
We
didn't
could be a
speak it into
16-year-old kid's science
existence.
project.
So just to be sure,
You need to understand
the
that.
the Bible says
Maybe you
God
could.
spoke it into existence. Is that not true?
God, this creator or architect of what exists.
I
has
didn't hear an
existed
answer to the
and will
question. Did you,
exist,
Ian?
Exists. That
Of course
exists.
not. Where did
Yeah,
the
does-
subcontractors come from?
DJ Dodge, we're asking, did
God
God
created
speak
them.
it into existence or not?
Did God repeat that again?
Did God speak it into existence or not?
He created it into existence.
The Bible says he spoke it into existence when he created it. And you just said that that didn't happen, that he
Do you guys not feel
subcontracted it
bad that you
out.
guys are debating against something that was written 2,000 years ago? Does that
We
not
don't
like,
feel bad. What we do is feel
does that
bad
not
for
make you
people
feel
who
like
believe
you're
in these
debating a
bad
3-year-old child while
archaic.
you're-
What makes
We
me
are
feel like I'm
debating a
debating
3-year-old child right
Yeah,
now.
I do feel like
Yeah,
I'm
but-
debating a
but
3-year-old
you're trying
child, but
to-
it's
you're
because
trying
you're
to
dodging
make
and
someone
crashing the
defend something
fuck
that was
out.
written
Let's
2,000
just calm down there,
when
Mouth
there was
Breather. Just
witches
relax.
and heretics and people were thought that the earth was flat.
Buddy,
Whoa,
I'd
calm
be
down.
careful. You're a heretic yourself. You're going to super hell.
Yeah. You don't follow the 10 Commandments.
The caption at the top here is God isn't real. Why don't you stick to that instead of going to elsewhere?
Well, he was giving you an argument and you weren't following.
Let's
Well,
not
try
talk
again,
about the
Ian.
Bible and all that.
Try
Let's
ag-
talk
try
about
again, Ian.
real or not real God.
Okay.
That's what you're trying
That's-
to debate here. not
Sure, totally
religion.
fine. Yeah. Was God eternally creating the guys who he was like subcontracting out to create the universe?
The initial creator was eternal and always there.
Do you think that answers the question?
Yes, it does.
What was the
Nope.
question?
The question is, if the universe is eternal, then he must have created if the universe
That wasn't
is-
the question.
was created by an eternal God. Okay,
Nope.
repeat the question.
Yeah, so you're saying that so God created like these like heavenly subcontractors to go and create the universe.
Possibly.
You don't
or
even know what
created
the
the
fuck you
universe.
believe?
Do you understand that believing something doesn't make it like right or I
understand, but
that
you don't
there are
even know
gaps in
what
my
you
information.
believe.
What you don't understand is there's gaps in what your theory of what
Wait, that's
happened in
totally
this world
fine,
is.
but
think
can we
know
just
where the
before you
universe
pivot
came from.
away,
You
before
don't.
you sprint away, can you just
You don't know
acknowledge
where the
that we
universe
did in
came from.
fact disprove God just now? You're trying
No,
to
we
pivot away
didn't.
from the argument because we disproved him. Otherwise, you'd
What
be
did you
able to
disprove?
engage with the argument, but you're not able to.
You said that the universe was created out of thin air.
What
That's
was
you're
the
saying.
first thing God created?
How am I supposed to know that?
Okay. Was
You don't
God
know your own
eternally
beliefs. Okay.
creating?
The creator or architect of the place that we live in today, I don't know how many levels up, that thing or person or whatever is eternal.
It's a yes or no question, and I didn't ask if he's eternal. I asked if he was eternally creating.
Possibly.
Oh, then the universe just would have eternally existed.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
He
If
could
he's
have made
eternally
7
making
universes.
it, then it eternally exists.
Have you heard of
you
things
know?
like multiverse theories?
Yeah, I have. Are you aware that the multiverse is also just a part of the universe? It's a part of the wave function?
there are multiverse where there's separate universes that do not touch each other. That's not part of the wave theory.
Oh wait, then you're actually confused about what the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics even says.
No, there are many different theories of multiple universes where the two universes do not coexist.
So
And are
are
not
you
connected.
referring to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, or what are you referring to?
Yes.
Oh, well, then that's actually one universe, but many worlds that are orthogonal to each other. They don't interact with each other, but that's all one wave function. So was God eternally creating the wave function?
God
Is eternal,
my
I know, but
understanding,
was he
is
eternally creating the wave function?
no, once the original conditions
Okay.
are created, that's all you need to do.
Okay, sure. But if you go back to when he created the initial conditions, does that go back eternally? Had he eternally created the wave function?
No, he could exist eternally and then decide to start creating whenever he
So then he
wants.
changed.
So,
Sure. So do you think God's outside of time?
yes, he does sit outside of time. Time
Sure.
and space was created at the Big Bang of our universe.
Yeah.
Time did
So
not exist
you think that
before
this
the universe
timeless
existed.
God, despite the fact that God lacks past, present, and future because he's outside of time, he changed from a past state to a future state. Is that what
He
you
did not
believe?
change states. He
You
began.
just said he changed. You just said he wasn't creating and then he started creating. That's a change.
Yeah, the same way I haven't started eating my lunch and I start eating my lunch.
That's a change.
So
So then
mean I'm
God
not- it's not eternal.
changes.
I can exist before I eat my
Oh
lunch
my
and after
God,
I
this
eat my
guy
lunch,
is like
and then eat my
terminally
lunch
not
in the middle.
tracking.
Do you not
Do you-
understand that?
Let's
Hey,
just get very linear about this. Do you think
hey,
God changes?
Hey, hold on, fellas. Apparently, there's some confusion about what time I'm supposed to be on another channel, and it was 5 minutes ago.
The issue
Oh.
is you guys sit up here and you
Are you
debate
good?
the God's existence, but you have no
apparently
explanation
not.
for what
Uh,
is being created in your universe today. Like, what
It
is your
Okay, this guy
says
got
2
explanation
bashed already.
for
You can
Yeah,
you can
so
definitely run if
what's
you
your
need to.
explanation for?
Yeah, it says 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it's currently 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I assumed I have an hour left, but apparently that's not the case. Okay, so it's fine then. I apologize, friends. I gotta go. Sorry about that. I apologize for some super chats I didn't get a chance to read, but now I gotta go be fashionably late to host another show. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
Ian, good to see you, buddy.